date with comedian Aziz Ansari.
Aziz Ansari is pushing back.
Her date with comedian Aziz Ansari.
A movement that was started to support all survivors of sexual violence is being talked about like it's a vindictive plot against men.
And as a man who does whatever he pleases, I've analyzed the entire earth, all of it, and realized all of the world's problems. I'm about to tell you the root cause of every single problem in the world. So buckle the fuck up.
That's another thing too that girls grossly overestimate, is that we care about your guys' opinion.
People settle for like anything, like literally like, oh my God, he texts me good morning. Please.
So both of you do OnlyFans. How much do you make, Nicolette?
I make a lot.
How much?
I lied and cheated in school and my jobs, and that's how I got ahead. Exactly. You know how they try to trick you. They say, oh, cheaters never win, and losers never prosper. And cheaters never prosper, and don't lie, and karma. Everyone who is anyone that has something is a liar, a manipulator, a cheater, or whatever you want to call them.
This is part 2 to our Gender Wars timeline series. Half of the discussion about gender wars is political and the other half is about dating. But anything that is related to dating ends up becoming political because, as second wave feminists said, the personal is political. Once again, this timeline is intersectional because it has to be for us to give a full view of what the gender wars look like from the first wave of feminism up until now. And in this episode, we are starting with 2014 in the Me Too movement.
Bitch, what I was trying to say is this situation got me so wet and so dry at the same time. Exactly.
What's up, bitches? Welcome back to another episode of So Wet, So Dry. I am one of your hosts, Autumn, like the season. I'm trying to get back on my witchy casting spells shit, and I work in entertainment.
And I'm your other host, Fiji, like the island, like the water. I'm ashamed to say that TikTok Shop finally got me, and I work in social media and marketing.
If you're new here to So Wet, So Dry, what we do is explore duality through deep diving topics about sex, relationships, and personal identity, all where internet trends and reality collide. We do post polls over on our Instagram. It's at So Wet, So Dry. The O's are zeros, to give y'all an opportunity to have your voice heard and submit stories for the episode. So make sure you're following us over there. And whatever platform you're listening on, make sure you either subscribe or follow, like the video, leave a comment. The whole point is to keep the conversation going. So please let us know your thoughts on the episode. You can always email us as well at sowetsodry@gmail.com with any stories or episode topic ideas. And you can also give us a star rating on platforms like Spotify, Amazon, and written reviews on Apple. It would mean so much to us. So let us know if you do any of those things.
So if you guys watched our first part of the Gender Wars timeline series, thank you. We had all intentions of doing the entire timeline in one episode, but we are in fact delusional. So we did stop. Now we're on part 2, and we do also have a part 3 coming out the following week after this, where we break down the timeline, look at the present moment, look at the political, look at dating, and kind of have a whole wet, dry, confused conversation about it. So this episode, if you are a loyal listener, we will not be wrapping up with what we're so wet, so dry, and still a little bit confused about the topic, because it's okay to be confused.
Yeah, we realized that 3 hours actually wasn't enough, and we in fact needed about 9 to 10 to cover this whole topic. So let us know if you guys like series. I feel like it's a lot easier to break things down with so much nuance, like we have more time. So let us know if you like that, and we can do it again.
Yeah, because guys, this outline is like 70 pages, and that's only with some of the images in there. We haven't even pulled all the images for both episodes yet, so I don't know how we were thinking 2-3 hours, but that was delusional. So we're gonna pick back up in 2017, and you know our timeline's a little bit like back and forth, so we do have a little bit of 2016 sprinkled in here as well. But last week, if you guys are tuning into this one first, I don't know why you're doing that. Please go back and watch the first one. But in case you didn't watch the first one, we talked about the first wave of feminism, second wave, third wave. We talked about the birth of the manosphere and the men's rights movement. And now we are much closer to present day, but you would be shocked how much has happened since 2017.
I know, dude. What the
Bro. So in 2017, we have the Women's March, and this took place on January 21st, 2017, the day after the inauguration of Donald Trump. And I know I went to the Women's March in Boston. You did too, right?
No, I did not go.
You didn't.
I
think
didn't
I went
go.
with your
And
old
here's
roommate.
Yeah, you did. And here's the tea. Like, this is on me, like, evolving and learning and all of that. But my privileged ass, my mom, like, was going to Washington, D.C. to, like, march in, like, the march. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, that's
she
where
would,
it was.
she would.
And I, like, didn't go. And, like, I don't know why or, like, what my problem was. But, yeah, we're learning. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I mean, honestly, when we talk about it and the
Yeah, no, it's
activism
like-
that took place, not the worst march to miss. I mean, it was important, but...
Right. It was revolutionary for its time. But it's like...
For its time.
But, you know, did everyone feel that way at the time? Like, did we just feel that way? Like, I mean, it was, but it's so complicated. And, like, definitely looking back now, it hits a lot different.
Yeah, the white feminism was white feminisming, even though Me Too and everything was started by a black woman.
Right.
And Me Too was actually a movement that began in 2006, 2007 with Tarana Burke, who is a black woman. And then it didn't gain significant momentum until 2017. And it was kind of like spiraled. I don't want to say out of her control because she wanted other people to get like on top of it and behind it, but she wasn't credited for a lot of it, even though she is the person that started it. It was co-opted by, of course, a lot of white women. And there were over 4 million participants across the world. The march emphasizes intersectionality, supposedly. I don't know if we did a great job of that. And advocacy for issues like reproductive rights, LGBTQ plus issues, and racial justice. So it was kind of like a march for everything because Donald Trump was elected.
Right.
And there were so many intersects between what was going on. But the foundation of it really was in Me Too, which if you guys don't know, in 2017, the Hollywood producer Harvey Weinstein was exposed for using his power to sexually harass countless women in Hollywood. And a lot of the credit for Me Too is generally given to Alyssa Milano, who helped popularize the hashtag Me Too, even though Tarana Burke started it.
Right.
And she tweeted, "If all the women who have been sexually harassed or assaulted wrote Me Too as a status, we might give people a sense of the magnitude of the problem." And in less than 24 hours, 4.7 million people engaged in the Me Too conversation, with more than 12 million posts, comments, or reactions on Facebook. And then after that, there was also the Time's Up movement, hashtag Time's Up, in like 2017, 2018, that was also created by a lot of Hollywood women to combat sexual harassment in the workplace. And it was, I mean, when we think about how it started, it was women in Hollywood.
Right.
So it was a lot of like very rich, elite women, and it had been a problem that was going on for like a really long time. Like, I love Courtney. You know who Courtney Love is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Courtney Love had a video in the 90s where she was saying, like, be
You love
careful.
Courtney Love.
Yeah, I love Courtney Love. And people want to hate on her and demonize her and, like, whatever, but she's been that bitch.
Okay.
And she had a video in the 90s where she was being interviewed, and she was like, girls, like, this is a tip. Like, don't meet Harvey Weinstein. If he ever asks you to go back to his hotel room, don't.
Wow.
So, like, there were people speaking on this before,
right,
but it didn't come to, like, a surface where everybody was speaking out about it until around this time. And this is also when, like, Donald Trump's grab her by the pussy, like, remarks were leaked from his conversations. Yeah.
I know. And, like, we lived it, but it's like when I think back about Me Too, like, I really do think about, like, Harvey Weinstein. Like, that is what comes to my mind.
Yep.
But it really was like such a crucial moment, like, because of the election. Like, I don't realize that it had so much to do with that as well. And, like, one of the other things, like, I always think of, it's like Me Too was supposed to include men, like, blah, 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 blah. But it's like, it didn't really, like, feel that way. It did feel like, I mean, it was called the Women's March, no? Like,
well, so it's weird because the Women's March was technically like post-election. Like,
okay,
they're different,
yeah.
But they're like, because it's like the pussy hats that grab, those were in direct opposition to grab her by the pussy. So it was like, it was just a time where we were having a broader cultural conversation about sexual harassment, rape, etc. So I'm grouping it into the same timeline, and I'm not getting into the nitty gritty of like what exactly like
it feels
transpired.
like that in my brain though. Like it does
exactly.
feel
It kind of like meshes together.
Yes.
And how you said about the men thing, another thing I wanted to know was Terry Crews.
Okay.
Remember?
Yeah.
He was sexually assaulted. He was groped at a party in 2016, but he did not report the incident for fear of retaliation. And he is like a very tall, big, strong black man. And he was like, you know, what are people going to say if I come out with this? And he was right, because people treated him like fucking shit. Right. And who had done this was Adam Vanit, who was the head of motion picture department of the talent company William Morris Endeavor, WME. And a lot of men and women were more on his side and got behind him, but it was kind of like a counter note to the Me Too movement. It was like, yeah, we want to include men too, and some women were really vocal about it, but it was very clear that like Me Too was a predominantly like women's movement, and men weren't really like gathering behind Terry Crews like that or coming out with their own stories, even though there are plenty of men in the industry. I mean, even now that we talk about Diddy and stuff like that, there are men in the industry who have been silent for a very long time who have experienced a lot of shit too.
And I don't remember what episode it was, but I literally, because I've never really had this thought before, it's like it's 1 in 4 women, like that statistic that we always hear, like 1 in 4 women will be abused in some sort of way, like raped, sexually assaulted, what have you. But it's like, now I'm like, in the numbers for men, it's like 1 in 8, but it's like, because it's like men face such a different problem when it comes to sexual assault, because like, not saying it's so easy for women to speak up, like obviously it's like
it's not.
People don't believe you, and like it's really emotionally hard.
And then the police is predominantly men who don't want to do anything. So and
especially if you're a black woman, like an indigenous woman, it's like even more so people won't take you seriously. But it's like for men, it's like they do have that added barrier of society to be like, be a man, get over it. You must have wanted it. Like you're a sexual.
Or you're gay now.
You're gay. You know? Like they have that added barrier, and to like pretend like they don't and just kind of say like, oh, like it's mostly a women's issue is just like so wrong. Right. And it just makes me think like the statistics. I'm like, I wonder if the 1 in 8 is even accurate, because how many men stand up for themselves? Because how many women don't say anything? They don't. And it's still 1 in 4. So it's like,
I know.
Yeah.
And that's why it's really interesting when we think about even last week when we were talking about the men's rights activist movement and how like one of their core issues is domestic violence and sexual assault that men face from their partners. But it's so confusing to me, because if that's really an issue that you guys claim to be behind so much, why did you not join in the conversation during Me Too behind someone like Terry Crews? Because he wasn't the only one. There were a couple other men, but he was just the biggest one because he wrote a book about it and did like speaking engagements and stuff as well.
Yeah, and he's huge. Like he's Terry Crews.
Yeah, like, exactly. Like he's so well known, like all of that. But it's like, that's why I'm finding it like I want to continue to have empathy for men and pay attention to men's issues, and especially men like Terry Crews who are like joining the movement and speaking out and all of those things. But like the more and more I was doing this timeline, like while I've been in the past year developing more empathy for men and men who have been victimized by the manosphere's like brainwashing, the more research I was doing, I was finding moments like this in feminist movements where men had an opportunity and like didn't join, you know? And it's not to say that the predominant like women's narrative, because it was very much like we need to focus on women's stuff first.
Right.
Like it was very much like that.
And that's not a bad thing.
Right. And it's not a bad, and I do think there is a certain level to which if men started their own movement about like sexual assault, sexual harassment, like whatever, like there would have been maybe a little bit of backlash from women, because it's like, oh, now you want to do that now that we've started this kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's just like when I look at something like this, I'm like, okay, you men's rights activists claim to care about this stuff so much, but then a huge profile thing happens, but they get on it later when we get into Johnny Depp and everything like that.
Oh, shit. You're so right.
Yep. So we also in January of 2018, another big one that was key for the women and also key for the manosphere, this sparked a lot of conversations, was the Aziz Ansari story. Do you remember this?
No.
Okay, so this woman named Grace, she went by the pseudonym, accused Ansari of sexual misconduct in an article on babe.net, which is so funny that a site like that was still big in 2018. And it was aimed at millennial and Gen Z readers. And in the article, she essentially expressed that they had like gone on a date, and I don't remember the exact details, but like he was very like forward and pushy about like her sleeping with him to the point where it was like making her really uncomfortable. And she was saying that like it was making her uncomfortable. He was pushing too much, like he was harassing her, like whatever. And so it sparked this whole conversation where on the women's side of things, they were like, consent is not just, you're not just blowing over my consent when you actually rape me or assault me, but it's also in these smaller interactions, even if I did go on a date with you. So on the women's side, there was that whole conversation. But on the men's side, they were like, well, what the fuck can we do anymore? Like, she went on a date with him.
Oh, God, yeah.
What is da-da-da-da? And like, this one was, like, and when we get into, like, later, I think more probably next week when we talk about what's going on, like, currently, during Me Too is when a lot of men, and I heard this from all the men I was around, family members, friends, like, whatever, became afraid. They were like, oh, you do anything, a woman's gonna accuse you. In this case, like, Aziz Ansari was really, like, the catalyst to that kind of, because a lot of people looked at it like, okay, like he was doing a little too much, but is that the same thing? And it's still a part of the, like, it,
huge.
Yes, we still need to have that fucking conversation.
Yeah.
You know?
Like,
so
but it's
like,
cool, like, not cool, but it's like to pinpoint like when that really started, because it really is so prevalent today. And I feel like it makes like feminists and like women like so angry. Like it makes me angry, like when men say shit like that, when they're like, oh, we can't do anything anymore, like in that sort of thing. And like I do feel like that fueled the gender wars just like even more. Like as I did, it makes me so angry. And I know like we all felt so angry and we still do, but like even back like that time, like 2017, it's just everything felt so heavy. But it still
I was
does,
thinking about that, like I was watching that show, that Later Daters show that I told you about with the older couples on Netflix, and I forget the woman's name. Comment, guys, if you know, but she's the one with the white hair. She's really pretty. She's on this date with this dude. She like kind of likes him. She like kind of doesn't because he's not like a Bulldogs fan. Like I don't know. And on their way home, like he starts to be like, oh, like I'm really like attracted to you. Like I would never have a threesome though. Like he starts to make things sexual. And this is their second date. Like they were like, they had kissed and stuff like that. You can tell she's into him. But I was kind of getting like the ick, like cringe, because I could tell that she was uncomfortable.
Right.
But at the same time, like she wasn't saying anything. And I feel like he thought it was normal because like they're on a date, their second date, like they like each other. Like he's just trying to like make things spicy. And I feel like that is a situation that like happens a lot, and I think I've gotten a lot better the older I get, where like if a guy is like coming on to me and it makes me uncomfortable, like I will just say, you're making me uncomfortable, like
literally
stop.
Right,
you know. But like even I think it was our sex positive feminism episode or something where we were talking about consent. It's not, I think it's a conversation on the women's side of things too, to speak up in those situations. Like not to like blame the victim, but we need to like have those conversations, I think, like amongst women about like being more comfortable speaking up and like knowing when our boundaries are crossed, because sometimes we don't even know. Like sometimes it's like a guy is doing something weird, you feel a little bit uncomfortable, you play along, and then you go home and you're like, that was fucking weird. Why didn't I say anything? Like that was sexual harassment. And it was, but also we didn't say anything.
Right.
You know? And that's what she talks about in that Sex Will Be Good Again. That's the name of the book. Yeah. So like conversations like that, I think are important just on the women's side for us to continue having. But on the men, go ahead. And
I was just gonna say too, like the conversation with consent, like it's also like accepting, like yes, like you can choose to go on a date with this person, you can choose to start kissing them and then start having sex and then withdraw consent,
and then stop.
Because like the education around consent was always like yes means or yes, or like no means no, or whatever. Right. It's like yes, but it's like we have such like yes, like how do we not understand that? But it's so much more than that. Yeah.
And that's why it needs to be like conversations, I think, where men are included, because I feel like they think, oh, I can't do anything or I'm going to be creepy.
Wrong.
But that's not, if we're talking about it as like whole human beings and we can have conversations of, hey, stop.
Right.
Hey, that made me uncomfortable. Then it doesn't have to be weird. It's just normal and you just keep moving on.
Yeah.
Instead of like, if she says no and then you keep pressuring her,
right,
then you're crossing a boundary and that's weird. But
yeah,
you just going up to a woman and asking her for her number, that should not be seen as sexual harassment.
No, not at all.
Like right place, right time. But like,
yeah, totally.
I think we lost the plot in that whole conversation.
And real quick, I just want to say too, like when you were talking about how like you can be out flirting with someone and then all of a sudden you go home and you're like, oh my God, like that was sexual harassment. Like I was uncomfortable. It's like maybe because I know it's hard. It's like sometimes you're not in the moment, like you're drinking, like you're not just going to like be able to pinpoint everything.
And you just hope it goes away.
Right. But we have to like center ourselves and like be in our body and like trust ourselves and like love ourselves and like be able to like be like, wait, no, it's like get better at that. Not to blame ourselves or like feel bad, but it's like, right, yeah, like we do need to, and I can do a better job at that 100% because you're so right. Like I'll just play along and like hope that they go away, but that's not teaching them anything.
Right.
Like,
and hope that they get the message, but they don't fucking pick up on it and stuff. Like you'll like, you'll just be like, and then like whatever. But
and they're still down.
If they're being weird, you have to be like, you're being weird. And I know women like fear for their lives and I'm rolling my eyes, but it is serious. Like,
right.
I get that. But I also think to a point we need to stop doing that.
Yeah, if you're in
not
public,
helpful to ourselves.
Like, right.
Yeah, if you're at a bar with a bunch of other people there, you can say something and there's a crowd of people like,
or hey, like, I'm not interested. Like you don't even have, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Point blank fucking period, bitch. I'm gay. Like whatever you gotta say.
Right,
I mean, now you're just like
don't
lying.
like that though. Yeah,
I know. If you are, you could say that. If you're bi, just be like,
But also people like Aziz Ansari need to not be weirdos, even if she gave you consent for a date. So around 2017, we also have dating apps picking up in popularity. And so this is also like, again, they were there before and stuff, but they're really like gaining speed. Because remember, we had Bumble launched and then we had whatever. So people are like online dating. It becomes the top way for couples to meet. I think 2017 was the first year that it was that. So this is all going on. And then the last thing during this like little 2017, 2018 timeline that I want to talk on the women's side of things before we get into the men on the same timeline is Call Her Daddy launches in 2018. And this is Alexandra Cooper and Sophia Franklin. They had put out 3 episodes before they were picked up by Barstool Sports. And this is why I put it at the end of this, because we're about to get into the manosphere in a little bit. And like, even though they are women and they were very like feminist in a way, because they were focused on women's sexuality and like owning your sexuality and having conversations about sex and being raunchy and all of that stuff, they were owned by Barstool, which is a very like sexist manosphere kind of platform.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that they were kind of like probably encouraged to lean into their sexuality quite a bit. And it was a point of tension for both of them because they found out that they were underpaid. And that is ultimately the reason that they broke up, because Sophia Franklin wanted to get more money from Barstool Sports. And what's the main guy's name? I forget his fucking name. He's so irrelevant. But like,
I think of like Barstool, and I literally think of like in high school when all the guys like would chant, Saturdays are for the boys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like they would like parade around town.
Because that was a Barstool Sports thing. Exactly. And then girls would be like, no, like I need a Saturday.
Or they would be like, yeah. Like
they'd be like, go bye. And they would feed into this a lot. Like they fed into like the bro. It was like the men that they were talking about were predominantly like athlete type of guys. Like that was very much like the target audience.
Seriously.
And I knew a lot of guys from my high school that listened to Call Her Daddy too. They didn't just have a women's audience. They had a big male audience too. Because they talked about like the Gluck Gluck, what is it? Gluck Gluck 7,000, 9,000. Gluck Gluck 9,000 or whatever, which is like how to give like good head,
right,
and stuff
the
like that. And
classic.
look, I'm like for it. Like we talk about sex on this podcast, like very for it. We would be lying if Call Her Daddy didn't influence us in like a good amount of ways. Like we've like researched a lot about them and like what they did right and wrong, and like doing our own podcast, even though I think we're really different now. But yeah, Sophia Franklin and Alex Cooper were like, we're not making enough money. They went and like asked for more money. They were like, no, Sophia Franklin's boyfriend at the time was blamed for a lot of this. Like they were saying like, oh, she was co-opted by her boyfriend, and then she ended up leaving, and she started her own podcast on her own network. The media destroyed her. So I like Sophia more.
Yeah.
Honestly, I still like Alex, but Alex completely rebranded when she got her Spotify deal, and then now she's on her own network, and she's like very much like girl boss. Like she does it, like she still has conversations about sex, but she's married now, and it's not as like,
she gives like wine mom, like she's not doing anything crazy anymore.
And it's weird, like the way that she like asks people, like some of her interviews that she asked people about sex, it almost feels like to me like she was always playing a character, and that was never really her.
And this is like maybe the real her.
Yeah, but even in our was it trauma dump? Yeah, our trauma dumping episode, she talks about how she was embarrassed about a lot of the things she said in the past and like the rebrand. So this is like a weird point in history because women are becoming more like sexually free, sexually outspoken. They want to just like fuck and not have any strings attached. They're liberated, which is very counter to like Me Too. So like all of the men are very confused during this time, and like women are as well, because we're like, oh, you know, we got to pay attention to consent and like all this stuff, but also like we're down with the situationships. Like we haven't moved to the point yet where we're decentering men and we're cutting off relationships and all of that. Like we're in this transitional period, I kind of want to say.
Yeah, and I also like remember from that episode, Trauma Dumping, where we talked about how Barstool like definitely did heavily pressure them because the views were going so high. So it's like saying this was a big thing during this time period. It's like it really was like they were like driving the internet with this shit, like how to suck a dick, gluck like that was like you didn't see that, like to my knowledge, like that was like not the first time, but like it was definitely like very. And now I feel like if someone did that, it's like not
it's
normal,
every other
but it's like
every other podcast. Like I feel like they really did pave the way in a lot of senses. That's
why they
for,
were
like,
the first
dating and
3
relationships.
episodes.
Podcasts. Yeah, like they were like the first before, and then men started copying them and kind of doing the men's side of what that is, and then whatever. So yeah. So we have Call Her Daddy, and then in 2016, I also want to know, before we get into the manosphere, because I'm not really including this in the manosphere, this is kind of more aligned with Women's March situation, but it's still a men's thing. Okay. Colin Kaepernick does his protests during an NFL game. He's a quarterback, and he knelt during the national anthem. And if you guys remember, white men were fucking pissed about it. Like I know plenty of white men. I was a senior in high school during that time, and I remember my ex's dad was like, oh, he's disrespecting the fucking whatever. Like it was it was like such a point in conversation. And it's like, once again, we come to the whole, and it's not just men because it's on the women's side of things too, but I think women had become a lot more intersectional by this period. They were still doing the white feminism, still doing girl boss feminism, but they were bringing in more of black women's issues. White men, we consistently see, are like ignoring black men's issues, and they're not behind this at all.
Right, because you think about like the horrible like white old dudes that fucking die for football. They definitely voted for Trump, and it's like you and I and like a lot of other people, like that's like revolutionary. Like that was like fucking incredible. Like the NFL is like American culture, and so to have that like be represented and like force people to fucking think about it when, you know, privileged people, it's like they don't want to think about it, they don't think about it. Like that was huge. But yeah, it was like it also showed us like the rage that people felt for something that was like so necessary and like so just like innocent, you know, like he's fucking kneeled, like damn.
Right. I remember it was like a big conversation of, oh, respect the people in the military, like, oh my God, respect the race of people that built this fucking country and never got reparations or anything from it. But moving on, also in 2017 to 2018, we get the manosphere picking up. But first, in 2016, Jordan Peterson publicly opposes Canada's Bill C-16, arguing it compels speech regarding gender pronouns. So this is kind of what thrust him into the manosphere public eye as like being against like trans issues and like gender issues.
Okay.
And he claims to be, and I think he is, as far as Andrew Tate and Jordan Peterson go, Jordan Peterson is on the much less hateful side of the manosphere, but he still pushes a lot of toxic ideologies, particularly about trans and non-binary folks. And like he'll like pin himself as this like established, like esteemed, like whatever, because he was a professor and like all this other shit. But this is kind of the first time we see him start to talk about gender issues in a way that's toxic that the manosphere is going to grab a hold of.
Right. Because the pronoun thing was huge too. Like I remember like in school, it's like you start like some teachers would like, we would say our pronouns. Some teachers like we wouldn't, but like it was like starting to be a conversation. Like I learned what like non-binary was. I think like this was like my senior year of high school in 2016.
Yeah, same. Yeah, it was becoming a thing. Back in our last episode, we talked about in 2015, Caitlyn Jenner and trans rights started to become a thing. And there was the bathroom bill debates going on in 2015. And so this bill that he was opposing is like right around the time after that. And it was such a hot topic that it kind of like puts him into the mainstream media.
Right.
For guys to piggyback off of. So we have Jordan Peterson. And then we also get Alex Jones, who, if you guys don't remember from the first episode, he had started InfoWars in the 90s.
God, I remember
and he will
his
continue.
face.
Yeah, he will continue to be a little alt-right kind of psychopath, and he begins to criticize mainstream feminism, claiming it contributes to the decline of traditional gender roles. So we're getting conversations about gender roles. This is a big topic during this time. And then we also have Andrew Tate in 2017. He tweeted describing his view of what qualifies as sexual harassment amid the Harvey Weinstein sexual abuse cases, and tweeted several times that sexual assault victims share responsibility for their assaults. He also said depression isn't real and that women belong in the home and can't drive and are given to the man and belong to the man as a man's property. He also said men prefer dating 18 and 19-year-olds because they're more likely to have sex with fewer men in order to make an imprint on teenagers, and that women who do not stay home are hoes. And according to him, some of these comments were jokes and have been taken out of context.
Liar. But it's like the thing about the manosphere is like really at the core of the manosphere, the center of the earth, if you will, like that lava shit. It really is like gender roles at the end of the day, like what women are supposed to be and what men are supposed to be. Every argument they have comes from that. It's like it's all like not just gender, but like the roles that we play and what we should be playing.
Yeah, and it's in direct opposition to a lot of times women gaining more rights, and like men don't know what their like fucking place in the world is, because it's like, you know, while we are advocating for our shit, you guys can also get together and advocate for your stuff, and if you do it in the right way or whatever, like women will get behind it, like Terry Crews, like, and I know looking back, part of me is like, okay, like I get why some of them were radicalized because it was not the warmest welcome from women. But at the same time, I'm like, does it have to be? Because like men have been in power for so long that it's like, you guys have had such a chance to like change things. And like, I think it is kind of like pedagogy of the oppressed. Like the oppressor knows nothing else besides their point of privilege. So I think in some ways it took women, queer people, Black people being like, we want more rights, like we are oppressed, for men to look at things differently. But then all of a sudden that now it's a part of the conversation, and it's like, okay, cool, let that be part of the conversation, let you reconsider what it means to be a man. But Andrew Tate doubles down on like patriarchal shit that is actually oppressive towards men too.
I know. And I think like we're so far past the pedagogy of oppressed, bro. Like I just feel like literally because of like these men and like the manosphere and like Andrew Tate specifically, it's like when like literally I have a shirt like from Drew Afualo, like the Change Club, like women don't owe you shit. And it's true. But I'm like just thinking about, I'm like genuinely terrified because I'm just like, I don't see like I don't know. Like, it's just like, how are we as women gonna like find it within ourselves to like actually communicate with like horrible men? And like, is it gonna be like white women? Like, should it be us to other?
And
like,
that's the thing, because I feel like we saw in our last episode with Emma Watson and how she did the He for She campaign. Like, there were efforts for women to get men into the movement, and it was the fight for women's rights. And it's like, okay, do we need to go into the men's groups and talk to them and help them? And like, unfortunately, in my mind, sometimes I'm like, do all of us need to be doing that? No. But do some of us? I feel like they are so fucking helpless and clueless and lost.
Right.
Because most of them are looking at Me Too and everything going on, and they're like, their whole world is fucking shattered. They're like, I can't hit on a woman. I'm going to get accused of something.
Right.
They make more money than me now. They have more college degrees. I'm just so oppressed. Like, their view of it is wrong. And like, no one is, and because they don't know anything, like no one's explaining it to them besides these men that are taking advantage of them. So it's just a little bit like, it's fucked.
And I feel like the rhetoric right now, like in 2024, almost to be 2025, it's like, who gives a fuck that they're hopeless? Like I said in like 20 episodes ago, like read a book, like whatever.
Right.
But it's like, that's not like intersectional activism though. And at the end of the day, they're not going anywhere. And it's like,
we've been
we have to live, and it's not working. Right.
Yeah, we've been saying like, fuck you, you're trash, read a book, do this. Like, I'm not explaining it to you. I feel like that's what this time period was very much about. You know, like the only time they were like welcomed into the conversation, like Call Her Daddy had like a good amount of male audience, but that was just purely like sex. So it's like, again, like men are only like,
it was sex work in a way, low key. Like with your words.
Really was. It really fucking was. But yeah, so during this time, we also get the Joe Rogan Experience becomes a primary platform for men's self-improvement. So it had started before, I believe it started before 2018, but in 2018 is when it gains like real mainstream popularity.
Right.
And reached millions of listeners per episode. That is insane. Like, guys, like we
could
just
only
got our
dream.
Spotify Wrapped.
Yeah.
And I was shocked.
Don't tell them.
to see that the other top podcast that people listen to besides ours is Joe Rogan. And I always think when we're doing these episodes that I'm speaking to a little echo chamber of people exactly like us. But I love that I'm not. I
feel like we're like really not.
Like we're really not. And that makes me honestly feel better, because it makes me feel like we are having more of an impact. Like I want to welcome people with different views into the conversation, because an echo chamber I don't think is like as productive.
And we haven't done that in the past. And where is that getting us? So it's like, yes.
Right. But at the same time, I'm a little bit like, our podcast next to Joe Rogan, like I hope
like that looks
we're not
weird.
the same. It looks a little bit like weird. But it is the number one fucking podcast on Spotify. So like, what are we, millions of listeners per episode? Like, it's people that aren't full alt-right, because he's not full alt-right.
I was gonna ask
manosphere.
you, like,
he claims, and what a lot of his true listeners will say that love him,
right,
is that because my brother used to be into him, and I remember being like, what the fuck? But now he's not. Like, he got off of it. Like, he said he'll listen to an episode occasionally if the guest looks good. And honestly, I think I need to start listening to this podcast. Like,
who, Joe? Why do I always want to say Joe Grogan, bro?
Joe Rogan. Yeah, because I wanted to listen to his one with Donald Trump. Like, I feel like I should listen just to know what's going on, not whatever. But like,
I know that's another thing. We can't just not watch. Like, even though it's fucking hard and painful, it's like that's another thing. Like with myself too, it's like you can't, like, you just can't do that. You need to like know what's going on and all that shit.
Right. Like, you can't build your opinions off of just like news and media. Like, you have to engage with the content as well, which like I've done for this episode, and I'm pretty sure I still stand where the fuck I stand. But I didn't with Joe Rogan. But like, a lot of his audience will claim that he has, you know, people on the left on, people on the right, people in the middle. They say that Joe Rogan is very in the middle, and that he just questions everything, and that he looks at things from all views. And like, you know, again, I don't listen to him, so I don't really know what I can say. But like, the things that I've heard, and also like it coming out how many times he said the N-word, and some of the things that he said about gender, and like some of the guests that he's platformed at all on his podcast are alarming. Very alarming. I do want to say, though, guys, this is just like side note real quick before I keep going. I was using ChatGPT to organize the content for this episode. And when I was doing this part, it put in there that Joe Rogan had Andrew Tate on his podcast during this time period. And so I had that in the outline, like Andrew Tate was on Joe Rogan's podcast. I went to go look for pictures of it because I wanted to have that in the outline. Andrew Tate was never on Joe Rogan's podcast. There was an AI version of Joe Rogan's podcast that created a fake episode, like a deep fake, with Joe Rogan and Andrew Tate. And this is what is terrifying about AI, because it will rewrite history. Because I was having it organize a timeline with Andrew Tate and Joe Rogan. It combined it. It found on the internet that there is an episode that exists that's written by AI, but said it's the Joe Rogan Experience. So be fucking careful.
That's scary as shit.
Yeah, really fucking scary. Thank God I caught that. But yeah, he talks about self-improvement, men's rights, traditional masculinity, gender roles, a whole bunch of other shit. But that's his contribution to the manosphere. And then in 2018, we also get Jordan Peterson publishes the 12 Rules for Life, an antidote to chaos. And this is a global bestseller offering practices of advice centered on personal responsibility, discipline, finding meaning. And this is that theme of self-improvement that we see constantly in the manosphere. And like, again, when we talk about the pickup artists, like we did last week in self-improvement and fitness, the ways that people get into the manosphere, self-improvement for men is one of the top ones. And it just makes me so sad that like so many of like men's options for media and like role models end up becoming, because if it's not someone like Jordan Peterson or Joe Rogan or Andrew Tate or it would be someone more like Terrence Real or like other like male feminists, but they view them as like more feminized, you know, based off of like who they're in conversation with and like
which is
who
so
it's
dangerous.
marketed to too, because the marketing industry, the publishing industry, streaming industry, all of that plays a big role in how this media is received, because they create a target audience.
Right.
And it's just like, it's just so fucking toxic. But
it's manipulative, yeah.
Right. But I did want to know also like other things that were going on during this time. Our boy Justin Baldoni, which we talked about the movie It Ends With Us in our Dark Romance episode.
Okay.
He has been doing things for quite a while, talking about unlearning his masculinity. He did a TED Talk, Why I'm Done Trying to Be Man Enough, in 2017. And then he has a book called Man Enough, Undefining My Masculinity. Nice. Terry Crews also had books as well. So there were men that were speaking out against these things. They just didn't get the spotlight, at least on the men's side.
Yeah.
Because women were celebrating this.
Right.
Men weren't really celebrating this.
Which it's like, it's good for women to celebrate it. They need that. But at the end of the day, it's like, okay, men, now's your time. Like, this is a direct correlation to your experience. Like, yeah.
Hello. And then in 2018, we have this famous Gillette, The Best a Man Can Be commercial. So this commercial was a big cultural moment. And Gillette was not the only company that was doing things like this. There was a lot of companies that were finding ways to make commercials about like women's issues, racial issues, toxic masculinity,
queer
issues, like monetize it, you know, take a stance, like whatever. And this did receive a lot of backlash because people were saying, well, Gillette still charges more for pink razors, for women's razors. So like, are they really behind what they say they're behind? And then there's also like a whole thing about like ethics with like deforestation and like a whole bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, with the company, right? Like with Gillette.
With the company. Yeah. But I don't know, this commercial pissed off a lot of men as well in the same time. So it's like, while part of me feels both ways about it. I'm like, is it fucked up for this company to do this in a lot of senses, especially when they're still charging more for women's products? Yes, and they have a lot of issues, but also, would a conversation about toxic masculinity hit mainstream media in the same way on a regular commercial had it not been for this conversation? And it pissed off a lot of men, because when you think about it, so many men use Gillette, use razors. Shaving is a very like masculine thing. Whatever.
Know.
They're a big man brand.
Right. And it's like men, like, to make an impact, like, because it's like, yes, like it's performative activism in the sense where it's like they did this thing, made this thing, they put it out, but like they don't
where's
follow
the money
it.
donating?
They don't follow it within their like every day and like what's ingrained in their company. But it's like women didn't need to see that commercial. Like it's like we fucking know, bitch. But like men are the ones that like needed for that to hit. And it's like I don't think that's a way to like hit men in the way that they need to be like hit, if you know what I mean. Like
that's what I'm saying. And I'm like, the commercial isn't even crazy. Like it's like, you know, be a man, hold your bros accountable. Like it's all that stuff. Like what is a man today? And it's like such basic stuff that women have been asking for forever. Like, you know, check your bros, like raise your sons.
Boys will
like,
be boys.
It's like a men's issue, like topic still. Like it wasn't, but even men in the manosphere side of thing are like, oh, like feminizing, like whatever.
Yeah.
So that was like
and like my favorite part, honestly, is like when the guy, this guy was catcalling, and then the other dude like came out and was like,
he's like,
whoa, bro. And I'm like, yes, like that's like honestly everything. Like when that happens in real life, it's like maybe old feminist me would be like, bitch, shut the fuck up. I got it. Like I don't need you to come over here. But like now I do look at it as like heroic in like a healthy way, not like a fairy tale way.
Masculinity.
Yeah, like heroic masculinity. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like,
it would be great if we had a culture like that. And so part of me is like, okay, if Gillette is engaging in the predominant culture, if they're mainstream and they make this commercial that is controversial, it doesn't hurt. Did they spend a shit ton of money on this and like could be doing money with other things? Like, yes, but like, I don't know. It's like every company was monetizing during this time period, and I think because there was not enough targeted to men for this type of stuff, I think it was still important in a way. You know?
Yeah. It's like worse things have been done for sure, but I feel like the biggest part, like you said, is just that the company itself like was trash. So like, who gives a fuck?
And it's like exactly. It's like a yes and conversation.
But
like,
the video, okay.
The video, okay, but like you still charge less for women's razors, and then maybe we can have a conversation. But in 2017 to 2019, going back to the women's side of things, we have hypergamy, the soft life, and trad wife trends starting to emerge.
Babe, can you just like for the final time, like I know what it is, but like for the class, like what is hypergamy?
Hypergamy, like dating up, like dating men for like financial, like marrying above your like wealth class.
So like sprinkle, financial gain.
Sprinkle, exactly. Queen of hypergamy, exactly. So like during this time period, you see a lot of these conversations start to emerge on Reddit, YouTube, and relationship blogs. And particularly with the trad wife, I know we think about it as something that's like very modern in the past couple years.
Like now.
But it was starting during this time period and even before, because when we think about mommy bloggers, there was kind of that like romanticization of being like a housewife and like a mom. And even though these women were working their asses off, creating content while taking care of their kids and doing everything like that, it was like romanticizing the trad wife life to a certain degree.
Yeah.
So you get that coming like more with like the rise of influencers and like
TikTok
all of this stuff.
And all that shit. Right.
Yeah. So we get discussions about gold diggers, sugar daddies, dating for resources. And I can't help but think that this is also coming off of Call Her Daddy a little bit too, because once they started having the dating conversations, then we get the manosphere side of things.
Right. And that's how it all connects. Like, this is why we're doing the fucking gender wars timeline, because in order to understand like what to do, like we always talk about what do we do about this? Like, like literally listen to your high school history teacher, if nothing else, when they're like, history repeats itself. We can learn from history. And I was like, bitch, shut the fuck up. We have to look back here
to know how we got here.
Right. Like we actually do, because like as we're going through this, like it is becoming like so clear to me. Like it really is like a bing bong effect of these things. And it's like, we think about where it's going and like it's getting worse. Like I thought I was scared before, but now I'm just like, yeah, it's kind of just like making more sense to me.
Right, because it's been like festering, like it's all
like
been
badly,
and that's why when people say like,
and we're just
we're post feminism, post whatever, like no, because like there was stuff from that time period that was never resolved that is still like, you know, I mean, still the sex work conversation that we had. What, 2 weeks ago?
What a great combo, guys. Go stream that shit.
Exactly, yeah. Go stream that
I
shit
watched
too.
it today while I was getting ready, because
I was listening to it
like,
too when
wow,
I was getting ready.
They ate.
I was like, we're low-key smart. Like, bitch. But yeah, so we get conversations about all of this. We also start to get a lot of YouTube channels discussing relationship dynamics and women's dating preferences. So again, big on Call Her Daddy. And then you get men's like emerging as well because Barstool Sports is kind of like leading that whole thing.
Right.
And then again, we get traditional like gender roles, gender power structures, because we also have the trans, the non-binary conversations emerging. So it's like, what is gender? What is a woman's role? What's a man's role? Is casual sex okay? Like if women are fucking casually, can men fuck casually too?
Right. Like, yeah.
And then
do whatever you want.
Right. You get the alpha male strategies, some guy named Coach Greg Adams who focused on male self-improvement.
Self-improvement is crazy. It's like,
bro,
self-help is like not a bad thing, but y'all are doing, like, it is not self-improvement.
Right.
Like,
right.
It's so.
It's not.
I can't even, like, self-improvement as a term now, like, gives me the ick.
It kind of gives, like, toxic. Yes.
Yeah, I know.
It's so sad, but it really does.
Yeah.
And then you get the hashtag tradwife gains momentum on Instagram and Twitter, where women are sharing content about their domestic lives and their preference for fulfilling traditional gender roles. And it is also directly opposing girl boss because the girl boss era is ending and women are like, why were we busting our ass? Why were we on Bumble making the first move? Fuck all of that. Actually, I want a man who is self-improved because at this time period, it's like, it's not quite clear that the self-improvement is like full-blown toxicity yet. Like we haven't gotten there yet. So it's like women are looking at those types of men and they're like, oh, like I want a man like that that's going to take care of me. So there's still some like appeal in the male influencer, YouTuber, Instagram situation.
Like a provider, like a protector. And I do think like today, like women are still kind of wanting that, but it's like they're realizing it's like men aren't like doing it correctly or they're not doing it at all. So at the end,
well, honestly, like I'm like at this point, I'm like you can't, and we're gonna have this conversation a little further.
Okay, yeah, let me wait.
Both. You can't have fucking both though. Like you can't be like fuck gender roles, but also I only want a man that's a protector and a provider because then you are again dehumanizing him on the basis of his masculinity and like you know you can say that your preference is but it depends on how you talk about it. It's so nuanced because like if you only see, but whatever, we'll get to that. Well, yeah,
sorry, I'm jumping ahead.
Yeah, so and then we also get the soft girl life starts to emerge as well, which and all of this is the boss babe. It's again against the boss babe lifestyle. And all of this is leading us up into where we're going to get like SheraSeven and all of that stuff too. And OnlyFans, which is coming up.
Yeah.
So, in 2020, so this is again, our timeline is kind of like bouncing back and forth, but I'm breaking it up. So in 2020, the pandemic hits. We also have the Black Lives Matter protests after George Floyd was murdered. And then feminists participate in these marches quite a bit. And so it becomes more intersectional. We're talking about economic equity, police reform. You also get the counter All Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter situation going on.
Right.
And then also Breonna Taylor was murdered and Ahmaud Arbery, Rashard Brooks. And then also the murder of the Black transgender woman, Rhea Milton. So again, we have a lot of intersectionality going on. I was at these protests in New York during this time period, and it was directly affecting.
I was in Boston.
My partner at the time. Yeah,
I did go to those guys. Like,
yeah, this was it felt like the end of the world.
Yeah,
it really felt like the fucking end of the world. And then in 2020, because of all of this, you know, everyone's struggling financially. I was on unemployment. Yeah, a lot of people start OnlyFans. So this is when OnlyFans really takes the fuck off, and we have Beyonce and Meg Thee Stallion. Their song Savage came out during the pandemic.
I've seen that OnlyFans shit. What's up, Tyga?
Yeah, she might start an OnlyFans. Yeah, exactly. So that's what makes it like mainstream. People hear about it. They know what it is. They're doing the dance.
Yes.
Iconic. It was like the biggest TikTok dance on TikTok.
Oh yeah, because Beyonce's was like, I'm gonna start an OnlyFans. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. That was I think that one was first.
Hips TikTok when I dance. Yep. And then also we get WAP is released by Cardi B and Meg Thee Stallion, and this pissed the men off tremendously.
Yeah,
They're
and like women too, honestly.
Right.
Why are we over-sexualizing?
Why are we over-sexualizing shit? Like, da-da-da-da, whatever. Like, wet-ass pussy. Which, guys, my Instagram handle has been so wet forever. So I've always been talking about this wet
Isn't that
pussy.
crazy, bro?
Like, low-key.
Since what? Tell them the year. Tell them the year.
I think it was like 2018 because it was when I came back from. I think I changed it when I was in London.
No
when I just came
way.
back from London because I started going by Fiji in 2018.
Oh yeah, I remember what it. Okay, yeah. It's so cool.
Yes.
And now we're so wet, so dry, obviously.
And now we're so wet, so dry. So we embrace the wet pussy, and the dry pussy as well. You can have both. You can have a little in between. But this was a big moment for women, like reclaiming their sexuality, using their sexuality to profit, and men are fucking pissed off about it.
Right, because you think about it, it's like they're wanting to like, you know, have women like be in the specific gender role, like with the manosphere and like all this shit. They're already so mad. And then you have OnlyFans where it's like everyone and their grandma was on the site. And then it's like the last thing they want women to be is like reclaiming their sexuality and like being proud sluts. Like I feel like that was a thing. It's like, oh, slut, like slut was huge.
And they're mad about hookup culture because the dating app started like everyone was talking about hookup culture and Call Her Daddy as well.
Yeah.
And like all the dating conversations. But there was a certain point where men were like, because I mean, when you think about it, like women do have more options for having casual sex than men do.
Yeah,
like,
say it with your chest. We
like
fucking
we do. Like we fucking do. And the men are not happy about that. So then it starts conversations about body count.
Yeah.
Conversations about being a hoe. Like who's really a wifey? Like I think wifey was starting to trend as a term during this trad wife, wifey. Like you get it.
I do.
But during the same period, we have the manosphere is intensifying. So 2019 to 2022. And I believe this is 2019 he started it, but it becomes prominent in 2022. Andrew Tate operates or starts Hustlers University. Bro, like such a corny, like I'm just like looking at all the men's names for this shit is so fucking laughable.
Like, bro, it's like that was the best you got.
Hustlers University, rise and grind, hustle. Like,
believe in God. Don't like sleep for 6 hours. That's it.
Right,
like,
right. Like, okay, bye. Like, cry in the gym. Like, anyway, so the platform members paid $49.99 monthly for a membership to receive instruction on ways to make money outside traditional employment. So this is like the big gig era. Everyone's looking for a second job. The economy is trash.
Right.
We all want to make more money.
Because of Trump.
Yep. Because of Trump. Women are starting OnlyFans. Men are like, what do we do?
And the pandemic.
So they get into cryptocurrency is a huge thing, which I still don't fucking understand to this day. Copywriting, which I do. And e-commerce, and these were facilitated pre-recorded videos on a Discord server. And the site had an affiliate. Yeah, Discord just.
It's always like those scammer. They talk on Discord because it's like something about the government. Like if that's like a safer
they can't
place,
track it,
right, bro?
Why is that such the culture in this?
No,
shit?
the
It's
amount
like,
of dudes
you
I've
would
known
really
with
think
Discord.
that they're doing like FBI fucking. All right, let's relax. You literally just scam someone for $50. Take a deep breath. But the site employed an affiliate marketing program also, where members received a commission for recruiting others to the platform. So that's how like marketing is working because they're getting paid to bring more people on. They're like, bro, you got to check out Hustlers University. Like you're going to make so much fucking money, bro. And then in 2022, Tate became huge because he encouraged everyone to post videos of him to social media. So instead of like us taking our little fucking TikToks that take us so fucking long and posting them every day, he was like, you know, he's going to do that, but fuck that. I'm going to encourage my audience to make clips of me and promote them throughout social media. So that's why you get a bunch of little like Andrew Tate accounts like flooding the internet.
Right.
Which, guys, if you and our audience want to do that of us, pick the good clips, but
yeah, they will.
It'd be nice.
Yeah. Someday.
So he starts to do that, and this allowed him to get around bans because he was facing bans on social media at the time. He was being deplatformed for his misogynistic, transphobic hate, all of that stuff. But because it wasn't him, it was other people posting it. he was able to get around it. And in 2022, the platform had around over 100,000 subscribers. And then it was rebranded as Hustlers University 2.0 and then Hustlers University 3.0. Yeah, and then they had like a whole like fucking like controversy with Stripe, the credit card company, because they pulled out because of like controversy. But anyway, it was accused of being a pyramid scheme and being a total scam. So like, you know, no fucking surprise.
Right, and it's well known now that it fucking was. Like, it was
right,
the ultimate fucking scam, like preying on dudes that like are fucking hopeless, whatever, and now we have male loneliness. Like, it all goes together.
Right, and when we talk about, like, in the last episode, remember we talked about Andrew Tate's webcam business?
Yeah.
In the background, during this whole time, he is running a sex trafficking ring.
It's not funny.
A fucking
it's not funny.
Webcam. No, but it's
insane.
not funny. It's fucking, because it's like, bro, scam artists manipulating vulnerable people. Like, that's why it's like, again, like, I fuck these men. But also, like, we can't even completely blame them all the way 100%, because they are being manipulated as fuck. Like, brainwashed, rabbit hole.
Right. When they don't have a lot of places to go.
Right.
That are like men.
They're like, I want extra money during the pandemic. I need an extra gig. I want to hustle and grind.
Like young,
I want to be
like,
fit.
They're like 18.
I want a little bad bitch. Like, that's all of
and
that is what he's
too.
promising.
Like, yeah.
That's what they're fucking promising. So that's all going on. And then in 2019, too, as Andrew Tate is gaining his traction, we have Fresh and Fit emerges onto the fucking scene.
And this was like, yeah.
Oh, bro, this is Myron and Walter Weekers. He goes by something else. I don't know, and I really don't care. But they actually started, Myron, like, used to work in, like he used to be a cop or like something like that. And then he started his channel as like a fitness channel and a self-improvement channel. Again, that's what it started as. And then slowly you start to see him get, have more videos. Like, I have screenshots right here. So the first one we start to see is how to pick up girls in the Bay Area, 10 habits that make you low value, porn star interview. We have how to become a high value man, how to run a long-term relationship. Like, what?
Right.
Oh, how to run long-term relationship game. Whatever the fuck that means. Like, bro, love her? Like, I don't understand. How to approach women online. Like, and these guys clearly don't know shit, but like, they think they do.
And this is in a time where, like what we said, the Me Too movement, men are feeling scared to like approach women, interact with women.
Yes.
And here you have a video that says
in the
how
to approach.
Like, what do you think's gonna happen? Like, and it's like, this fucker knew that.
Yep, and he progressively
or maybe he's not that, like, I don't know.
Worse.
Maybe he's not that
and he
smart.
had Kevin Samuels on his platform too, which Kevin Samuels has since passed away, but he was an internet personality and image consultant. Like, guys, we were just making up businesses. And he did a lot of YouTube, Instagram live streams discussing modern society, gender issues, relationships, like whatever. So he was another proponent of the manosphere that would go on their channel as well. So they were like doing it at the same time.
Right.
And some of his like weekly or Fresh and Fit's weekly episodes were like Money Monday, Wednesday was Red Pill Wednesday, or it formerly was Womanizer Wednesday. And then you have Friday is Fitness Call-In Friday. Like, bro, I cannot take this shit seriously. Like, this shit is so fucking corny. But yeah, so we have these guys. And I also looked up, let me like check again how many subscribers they have right now. And it was less than I thought. Oh, they have 1.57 million. Which is still high as fuck, but it's less than I like thought it was. So that was surprising to me. And Kevin Samuels, I think he has 1.86 million. But he's no longer producing content because he passed away. So around this time period, because of these lovely gentlemen, we get the concept of high value men and women.
Lovely.
So how would you describe a high value fucking man or woman? Like, how they
like
describe
the real?
it? Because
Okay.
Yeah.
I would say, like, I feel like for I know better for a high value woman, which is like someone that like adheres to like domesticity.
Right, it's questionable, right? Because I've seen some women say
That's all I said,
like,
and you got it.
She's a boss. But then I've seen other women be like, it's because she provides high value in the kitchen.
Like, maybe it's both, because it's like, she is a boss. Like, she has her own thing going, but like, it's very quiet. And like, she doesn't like really advocate for herself like in any way. Like, it's just like, it's almost like something that's like not possible, kind of.
Right. It doesn't
like,
make
it's like
any
you can't be
fucking
out
sense.
there too much. Like, how much can you really be a boss? But it's like, yeah.
And you're not a hoe. You cannot be a hoe.
Yeah, you cannot be
Body
a hoe.
count has to be 1, even if you're 30.
Like type 0, honestly. Like literally
-3.
Be like a 26-year-old woman, but with a 16-year-old pussy. Like,
and low-key a BBL, but like you can't wear
depending, either a BBL or thin as fuck. Like,
or like a skinny BBL, because it can't be like too obvious.
Yeah,
like,
definitely
it's weird.
not. Yeah. A natural BBL that doesn't exist.
Yeah, yeah. So that's a high value woman. A high value man.
Like what? That makes money, that works out a lot.
A provider, protector, I
Praise
guess
to
is
God.
what they say. But their whole argument with Andrew Tate and Myron and Fresh and Fit and all them is like that a man is the value or something, so he should have
like, he doesn't have to
and
do
like
shit,
never
really?
commit.
Yeah.
Never commit because these hoes aren't worth it.
Yeah.
Is like the mentality.
Yeah, like never really like commit to a woman, like trust her fully, and like never look at a woman like she's your equal. Like, it's always just gonna be a woman, and like even if you're married, like she's still below you, and like you could still toss her to the side for some young.
Because it's like, yeah, it's like she will not, and it's. The
but
whole
she should
fear
deal
of
with
being,
it if you cheat. Yeah.
Right, because it's the fear of being like emasculated to a degree, right? Like they never say this, but it's the fear of like falling in love or having emotions for a woman that you are like with and fucking.
Right.
And then her having a control over your like psyche and your emotions which these men are like terrified of.
Right.
So it's about like keeping women at an arm's length too, and being like, I'm so high value that like you have to step to me
and like deal with all this bullshit, and like you're still expected to like look good 24/7, and like not it's and like don't get upset about anything either. Yeah, it's like, it's fucking crazy. Like,
it's disgusting. And then it's also the what do you bring to the table conversation that people said, because they're like, oh, I bring so much to the table. What do you bring to the table as a woman? Because the only things women can bring to the table are babies and food, apparently.
Yeah.
But yeah, they align with traditional femininity and traditional masculinity. This is so like they want women to have grace and nurturing behavior and beauty and self-improvement. But also they want to like kind of beat the fuck out of her, because they like want to treat her like such shit, but she's expected to still be like nurturing. But women grasped onto the topic of high value women and high value men as well. Like we see that come up a lot. And I wonder,
do.
Did it become, I'm like culturally thinking, it's like maybe men are watching these bullshit podcasts talking about high value man that fucking Kevin Samuels came up with and Andrew Tate, whatever. And then these women might be fucking with these men and then hear about this, and then they come up with the concept too, because I feel like it started with the men.
I feel like it started with the men too.
It did not start with the women.
I feel like it did too. And like, because like we've talked about some TikToks and YouTube videos of women being like, this is what a high value woman does. This is what a man wants. And it's like, dude, I think it is the men that that did it first. Like this whole high value fucking aspect. Like,
because I think it's in opposition to the OnlyFans girls too. Like they were like, those are low value women.
Yes.
So this is what a high value woman is.
Like,
so it's
I'm not like other girls. Yeah.
Right. So like and a lot of women, it's morphed into like co-opting it almost as a feminist way. But like to me, it's rooted in a lot of pick-me ideologies
and just
and
like misogyny. Yeah.
Yeah,
like,
because it's
no
like, oh, I'm
thing.
better than these other women because I'm pleasing what this man like wants of me. Like,
and
you know
like
what
that's
I'm
what patriarchy does. And like to an extent, we've all had moments like that. Like I've had moments like that for sure. Like
oh,
my
I'm not like other girls.
like my ex's new girl. I'm like, oh well, she has this, but it's like, you know, like I've definitely felt victim to that, but it's like so horrible.
We all have.
Not victim to it. Like I've done that shit.
I mean, yeah, because you're brainwashed in a way.
Yeah.
This is the predominant like culture.
Because you
society
think you need to be like that for the man to like fucking want you. At least the men,
right?
Like yeah.
Yeah. So while this manosphere Andrew Tate stuff is still trending, we also have the dark triad alpha male ideology beginning to emerge. And this is the old alpha man discussion, right?
Yeah.
Like Andrew Tate is big on this. And it's essentially like but like the dark triad, right? The dark triad aspects of it are like way more toxic. Like it's like emphasizing traits like dominance, strategic manipulation, and confidence to achieve success in relationships, but like toxic confidence. And then you also have traits like narcissism, Machiavellism, assertiveness, and how effective they are at gaining success and like whatever. And it often overlaps with the pickup artists, right? Because it's about like manipulating strategic stuff to like get women, which I'm like, what are we like? Why are so much like what
they're going over here this way? Like, why do you guys have to go so many routes? Like just like
and I get it because like as women we do similar shit when we think about like how we're gonna like we're gonna like play hard to get and like we're gonna like whatever like in ways like, we're trying to manipulate we're trying to manipulate them in a cute way, but they are like trying to manipulate us and like conquer us, break us down,
like you want to kill us way. And I think about like the narcissism shit. It's like narcissism is like huge right now. Like people are talking about narcissists and like, did that come from like the manosphere that everyone feels like they like can diagnose like they're the person they hated in middle school or like
because they weren't claiming to be narcissists. It's just
right,
they have narcissistic tendencies, but they they say that OnlyFans girls and girls that want sugar daddies and whatever, they call them narcissists. So it's like on both sides, but like I mean, I don't really think I could argue some of SheraSeven stuff is like promoting narcissism like a little bit, you know, because it's about like dehumanizing people to like completely, but we're gonna get to her. But yes, so it's very much like they see everything as a game. Nothing is about love, nothing is about intimacy, nothing is about connection. It is all a game and you have to win it and kill
nothing is direct or honest.
Nope, which is why we have social media and dating and it's just their idea because it's so overlapped with the red pill incels and stuff like that too, because like the incels believe in like chads, right? Like chads are the alpha males that get all the like girls or whatever. So like in a lot of ways, these men are trying to emulate that persona of what they think is the man that gets all of the girls. You know, like they're literally in the same way, like I guess women with us for beauty standards, we want to have the perfect body, the perfect skin, the perfect whatever. This is like their version of that.
And that's why it's like when we talk about power, like I know what the patriarchy is and like I understand where we're living, but like men literally feel worthless if they don't have a woman. It's like they have nothing. It's like they have fitness, okay, like self-help, like make money, okay, but it's like it really is all about the woman and like simultaneously.
It is about the money too, because they have to be able to provide, they have to fuck her right, which like not even though, because they're not really talking about how to actually please a woman. It's just about like getting her to submit.
Right. But it's almost like to a degree, it's like men are like their thing is like we want to like have a woman and like whatever make her do what we want to do, and it's like that's what will make us feel like we're in power, like we're alpha among the money and other things. But it's like simultaneously like women feel the most powerful arguably when they don't have a man, and it's like men are trash. So it's like those those can't exist together. No one's gonna be happy.
Right, exactly, because a lot of women feel like when they get in relationships with men, and especially if these are men's ideologies, then they're just like, well, where is my power in that relationship? Because your whole idea of a successful relationship is dominating me.
Right. Yeah.
You know, but then there's the other side of the soft life women who want that in a sense too. They want to lead into what is traditionally feminine and masculine, which is very like turf, bordering on turf. So yeah, it's very weird. And also I did want to mention too, like looks maxing and stuff, like that is like a thing in like these communities and everything too. And that is like a mainstream term now on TikTok, and even like betas, like that's like a Sigma or whatever, like that became a thing, and like Gen Alpha and like Gen Z, like those are all terms that come from the manosphere. So it's crazy how it's becoming like so
it's
big,
so
in
integral
culture.
to everything. Yeah, and we just look at it like, oh, the manosphere. People talk about it online, but they don't like really talk about it like in this way, like how, as horrible as it is, like how impactful it is, and like how it's caused like certain women to act as well, you know?
Yes, exactly. And so in 2022, we got the Whatever podcast, which is, we've talked about it before in our humiliation dating like content.
Yeah, we've showed clips.
Yep, we've showed clips. And Brian Atlas, it used to be a prank channel, and then he released his first live stream, Does Height Matter? So it's like, again, it's similar stuff to like what Call Her Daddy is doing. Like, I think they did an episode on Does Size Matter? Like, we've done episodes that are like somewhat similar to this.
Oh, we've
like
talked about, mm-hmm.
We used to do stuff like we were going down this route like a little bit more in terms of dating conversations, and then we were like, okay, let's be a little healthier.
And like it's not fulfilling. Yeah.
It's not fulfilling because it's like, what are we fucking
what are
talking
we even
about?
doing?
It depends on the fucking person.
And we said size does matter. Like
yes, size does matter. I mean, it matters how they use it, but like if I'm gonna date someone, like the size fucking matters. But so it's clearly like Brian Atlas. If you look at him, I'm like, okay, like. I feel like he just wanted to figure out a way to have a bunch of hot bitches in the room.
Yeah,
and,
like he
push
loves
his
those
toxic,
bitches so much.
Like he feels like a fucking like the baddest ass. Like look at him in this picture, him at the table with all the bitches around him. Like you know he feels like a fucking pimp right now.
Because
like
that would never happen in a regular setting.
It would never happen. And whole time these women are using them. So they're talking about
they're using each other.
Yeah, women do this. Women don't love you. They just want to use you. Da da da. Well, it's like. Look at who you're surrounding yourself with. Not that these women are low value or anything like that at all, but they are businesswomen trying to make money, and your audience is men. They're gonna go on your fucking platform. Like we are creating this situation that we say that we hate and we want to avoid. So
right,
his channel actually right now has 4 million subs. So he is bigger than Fresh and Fit, which I feel like also goes to show like low key like the race side of things, because his side is much more white, and even though he started after and is kind of copying what the manosphere is like Fresh and Fit and Andrew Tate is doing, it's like gotten even bigger. And that he roasts feminists, and they keep doing these. His live streams are also over 4 hours. So like he'll break down women and just like ask the same question over and over again. The chat is like roasting her. Like it's truly
and sending
evil.
Fucking crazy amounts of money to Brian Atlas.
Right, exactly. Because I think they were demonetized too. So
yeah, that's what you said in that episode. It's like at first they go in, they're on the episode, and then like all of a sudden after 4 fucking hours, like you lose your shit.
You don't know where you are anymore. You're delusional.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, we record for like a good amount of time, but we take breaks, guys, and like we're not
also like
each other.
Not talking about that.
Yeah,
like, you know what I mean? Like I couldn't do this with like a man. Like
imagine like a 4-hour So Wet So Dry conversation with a group. What if it was just us bitches, the pimps, and then we had like a bunch of them?
Yeah, bro. It'd be like all these bitches fucking
Right. Anyway, so then we go to 2022. We have The Real World.
Okay.
So this is after Hustlers University was shut down. Andrew Tate launches a rebranded version of it called The Real World in October 2022. And the name references Tate's idea that the world is Yeah, exactly. Sorry, I couldn't read the text, but it resembles the Matrix. So again, red pill ideology. They all fucking believe in it. I like the movie The Matrix. It's so sad that it's been co-opted, because
like
a lot of people
anymore,
Yeah, a lot of people look at the Matrix. It's been talked about as being an allegory for like the trans experience as well. So it's like, I don't know, but like
I wrote a paper on it. I watched it in senior year in my English Lit creative writing class. Like now this shit wasn't going on back then.
Because like, why does it have to be that? Like, guys, like the red pill, that you are talking about, the truth, is the fucking patriarchy. Like, what are we, we are so close, and then we just go off a fucking cliff.
Right.
But anyway, it primarily targets male teenagers, really toxic, and students have described the program as having a cult-like atmosphere, and it has been described as digital grooming. Members refer to each other as G, with Tate being the top G, which sounds really fucking culty. And
why G also?
G, I don't fucking know. And the group is centered on Tate's 41 tenets for men.
Okay. Yeah, that's very okay.
Yeah, and again, we have the cryptocurrency, e-commerce, and drop shipping. So, this is why, again, we want to think, incels are just this subgroup of people. People that listen to this are just this subgroup of people. But it's there's a lot of men that get into this stuff because they think, oh, I'm going to start an e-commerce platform. Oh, I don't care about the women stuff. And I've heard men use that as an excuse, too. Oh, I listen to this because I want to learn how to drop ship. They get into it on a semi-innocent way, and then
and then they're fucked because it's too late once they click on it. Yeah,
they're red-pilled and fucking whatever. So we also have the War Room, which cost $8,000. It was advertised by Tate, costing $8,000. And the War Room claims to teach men physical, emotional, spiritual, and financial development, which is really wild for a platform that is called the War Room. And this one, again, is accused of digital grooming. The group chat had 12,000 pages of encrypted messages. Again, this is kind of that, Discord. I don't know what they're doing, why it has to be so secretive. But there was a Pimpin' Hose degree course, abbreviated to PhD.
Oh, okay.
And it had techniques to romantically seduce, emotionally manipulate, and socially isolate women before luring them into performing on webcams. Yeah.
Wow.
So sex trafficking. So we are grooming young men into how to sex traffic
that you just
women.
read?
And I want to say how much this has fucking penetrated the culture. I have been on dating apps and started conversations with men, and my social media presence. You see what I do. I have a podcast, So Wet, So Dry. I'm comfortable talking about sex. They aren't going to listen to the podcast or hear how I talk about intersectional feminism or blah, blah. They're not going to do that. They just see So Wet, sexually free, whatever. And I've had so many men since this time period, since 2016, that I've talked to, that their first thing is let's do business together. How are we gonna make money together? How are we gonna, and they want you to do porn and OnlyFans with them and stuff like that. Even my ex had fucking started on some shit, and it's it is from this.
Yeah, I mean that's literally what happened to me in my last relationship. Right, what you just said, yeah, and it's terrifying, and it's in the moment, in our real life experiences, it's hard to connect it. It's we do individualize it. Oh, it's just this person. And but it's it's actually a collective, because of these manosphere movements.
And us being women that have worked in sex work and being sexually free and thinking and knowing women who have made money doing this stuff, believe we are coming into the sex work mindset from a different space. Men are coming into it from a completely different space. And so then it's when you do collide, because it was similar with my ex, and he wanted to pimp me and whatever. And it took me he wasn't in this realm as much, but it's so much of the culture. They think that that's normal. I don't know.
Yeah, it's really horrible, honestly, because it's dehumanizing, the way that it is, because it's they break you down, they manipulate you, and get them to fall in love with you, or show them a little bit of what you want, and then you trust them, and then you don't think they're gonna do something like that to hurt you, but it's they do, and then you're fucked. And it's all at the same time. It's so many women have been going through that and are going through it, especially with OnlyFans and the rise in webcams and all this shit. And it's what we're saying, it's you break down Andrew Tate and all that he's done. It's that last sentence that you read is everything. Whenever it's he wants other men to emotionally manipulate women, it's use them for what they're quote unquote good for, and like you profit off of it though, like not her.
Yes, exactly. It's like dehumanizing the fuck out of her so that she becomes an employee for you. And it's like they're capitalizing off of the fact that during this time period, women are more sexually liberated.
Yeah.
And so a lot of women are like,
down.
I want, and a lot of women do. Like, it's nice to think about the idea of a man having your back in some of that stuff, or protecting you in a certain way. Like, oh, if I'm going to do this, at least I have someone who's going to be, like, safe or going to be protecting me and, like, whatever. So it's like...
I was just going to say, like, maybe this is cringe. Like, I don't know if I want to leave this in. But, like, I feel like in the past, like, Drunk Autumn, like, within the past, like, 4 years or whatever, like, it has been... like a point of flirting, and like me like knowing that it's like gonna be attractive to a guy being like oh, I just like want money, like I'm trying to like blah 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 blah. Like I've definitely played into
like
that.
Talking about wanting to start an OnlyFans or do something like
not
that.
even like sex work necessarily, but just like on your like Hustlers University shit, like trying to like get money and like build and like
same. Like I'm always like I'm a boss bitch.
Like bro,
I'm not
like,
for the girl boss culture, but I'm like I'm a hustler.
It's like we just like subliminally or like blatantly like act accordingly because
we want the validation, and we want to be seen as valuable. And if this is the predominant culture from a lot of men, it's like, and that's why it's like I hate a lot of the girl pick me conversations to a certain point, because it's like if you are heterosexual or bisexual as us bitches are, and you're still attracted to men, and this is the predominant male culture, and so, not all of these men are bad people. Like, I really are they maybe bad people now? Yes. But did they go into it with the bad intentions? Are they confused? Are they brainwashed? All of that stuff, as the women are as well, which we're going to get into in a little bit. It's like, you know, and I thought that in my last relationship with the guy I was with. He wasn't like this. He wasn't like this in terms of the OnlyFans stuff, but he was definitely like, well, how are we going to make money together? Whenever it was a conversation about committing, it's like, okay, but I only care about making money. It's like, bitch, I've been making money. I make my money. Why don't you make your fucking money? But he's seeing me as a route to him gaining, like, you know, like as a
barrier
worker.
Because your woman powers are gonna make him
exactly because they think like when we have sex and he's tired after because I sucked the fuck out of that dick,
your fault.
That's feminizing him, and now he's not gonna hustle and grind as hard as he could. Like
what are we saying?
Go.
Like do you guys want your dick sucked or
like,
not?
Do we know what love is, guys? Like,
no, we don't. We don't.
Like,
and I agreed. I think, and I feel like a lot of people would argue, or like just what I'm thinking, like people are going to comment or something, like say like, oh, like men can like figure it out. Like they're not that like fragile. Like they're not going to be brainwashed that easily. And I just feel like they are though, because it's like they don't have like anywhere to go on the internet. And like with the Me Too culture and all these things, like they do feel like attacked, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And it's like a lot of it like is young men like that were 17, 18 in 2016 and are now like our age. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like they are the men that like we're dating because they grew up during this time too. Like, so I'm just like, we're not saying that like men are so easily brainwashed. It's like this shit takes years and it's like multiple platforms and it's like preying on people that like have direct insecurities,
that are vulnerable.
Don't speak up about it. Don't go to therapy because they're men and they have that barrier, whatever. So they are going to be brainwashed, and women, and we're all chronically online. Like, the internet, like we are all online. We are addicted to our fucking phones.
And we're so afraid of like talking to other people about our issues. It's like, unless you have a really good friend or a really core friend group, like we've spent more time alone than ever with the pandemic and stuff. And if you have an insecurity or if you're isolated, you aren't going to go text your friend or someone you just met and like have a conversation. Like you're going to go online and look for answers on Reddit,
like by yourself,
on TikTok and everything by yourself, where it's like,
because you're getting like human interaction to a degree. Like you're watching the TikTok video, you're watching the YouTube video, but it's like you're by yourself. Like you're not really like voicing anything to anyone. So yeah, I just wanted to make sure like that's known, because I'm always trying to think like, what would I have thought in the past even? Because honestly, I would have been like, well, what the fuck? Like they should know better. Like da-da-da-da-da. But it's like with, I do like da-da-da-da thing like you do. Or you used to do it. But like also the pedagogy of oppress, like it's like that's what really showed me. It's like, no, okay, and it's like you're also a white bitch. Like you can fucking handle the emotional labor. Like you know what I mean? Like it's not that like calm down. Like you're good.
Right.
So that's what I've like learned like this year. Anyways,
progress, bitch. We're getting there. We're getting there.
Yeah.
All right. So next, a legal expert in human trafficking talked about this like war room chat and said that it describes the course as using all the practices of a lover boy strategy. So that's where you get the whole manipulation of them like thinking that they really love you and they really care about you.
No, like that literally happened to me.
Bro,
I
like
can't even okay, continue.
Like, bro, this is why we gotta talk about this shit.
I
though,
know,
because it's
I
like
know.
exactly like you are a victim of this fucking like psycho shit. And yeah, we know Tate was arrested in Romania or fled to Romania, sex trafficking, rape.
Yeah.
And one person said, my job was to go meet a girl, go on a few dates, sleep with her, test if she's quality, get her to fall in love with me to where she'd do anything I say, and then get her on a webcam so we could become rich together. And then evidence suggested that also violence against women was also discussed. Yep. And victim says sex was used as a manipulation technique. Members of the group believe they were performing Pavlovian conditioning on the women with submission tests, such as receiving tattoos on their bodies of members' initials. So, like this is how, like, deep in... Like, he is a criminal. Like, he is a cult leader, criminal, sex trafficker, master manipulator. And he's, like... encouraging these men to manipulate women, but at the same time he's manipulating them. Like it is insane. It's like
everyone else.
It's insane. So
it's like he wrote a fucking playbook, bro. But why do men? I know why they listen to him. I
mean, it's kind of the same when we get into SheraSeven, and it's like it's similar.
Right.
Like the parallel, which is why they call her the female Andrew Tate. So like.
Which is like a lot because she's not.
It's not that bad.
She's not a sex trafficker, but
right.
Honestly, with the Andrew Tate
we're preying on emotionally because that's our episode, which did really well on Spotify, but not great on YouTube, guys. So if you're listening on YouTube, please go listen. And it's a good one related to this stuff. But the emotionally unavailable man to sprinkle pipeline.
It was our 50th episode.
Yeah, our 50th episode. That no one listened to. But anyway, in 2020, we have the pandemic, right? And then there's all this digital content creation. There's the OnlyFans, and hypergamy and dating dynamics are getting super popular. And then we start to see financial expectations in dating growing as a movement. And so women are starting to talk about, like, because you see men, right? They're afraid to approach women. Dating apps are a thing. Everything's becoming more casual sex, all of that. And women are like, what happened to chivalry? What happened to you paying for things? What happened to you taking me out? So then we start to get people like the Wizard Liz and SheraSeven becoming super popular. We talked about the Wizard Liz and Guru Girlies doing paranoia content.
But it's like, what if the men are like, I thought y'all wanted casual sex though? Like,
I mean, we did. We
right.
did. We
But
did,
now-
and we do, but like we also wanted them to respect us. Like, I don't know, because we started having casual sex and they were like for it, but then they were for it, but they were like, but she'll never, like, I'll never like her or like love her or like see her as my wife.
Once we like
she's
do
the
that. Yeah.
Right. So they were
I
down
know.
they were down for like the like orgasm, ejaculation cause, like whatever. But then they were like, I'm not, like, I'm seeing her as like a fucking masturbation
And women
tool.
don't do that. Like, if you have a one night stand casual sex, it's like we're like, I feel like we don't rule shit off like that.
Right. And we
but
like,
it's you like you just like we ruined it by like fucking at 4 a.m. Like now we can like what? Like
it's crazy. So the Wizard Liz, she, you know, talks about dating up, hypergamy, high value men all the time. And she tells really funny stories. She's very charismatic.
Yeah.
And she's really pretty as well. And she like, you know, was like, don't be a silly little bitch type of thing. Like, that's not an exact quote. I don't know what she really says. I don't watch her content, but like, she'll kind of shame other women too. Like, you know, like women who have been in a situationship, been in a relationship with a man who wouldn't commit, who wouldn't provide for them, who was doing some of these things that maybe these manipulative men on the other side are doing. And she's like, fuck all that. No, you need to like stand up, bitch. Like, stand up. This is only what you will accept. Whatever. And SheraSeven is similar, but she says she's a financial advisor. She does not say she's a dating coach. She says she's a financial advisor. And as we
Which
talked
just
about,
makes it even more tea.
which low-key to me makes it better. Like, she's
Right.
not telling you how to find love. She's telling you how to find money. And to me, she is a sex work coach. Like, let's be fucking real. And she's married. So it's like, you know, you can go find a high-value man that makes a lot of money and does all this provider shit so you can live the fucking soft life. That is sex work. To me, that is a sex work relationship. If you are in a loveless relationship, like, that's
like transactional sex work.
It is a transactional, completely, you know, so in a lot of ways, this whole conversation, like hypergamy, high value men, gold digger talk, and it's a lot about like the dating strategy. Then we also get the luxury lifestyle, which is on the men and women's side as well. The women are doing the same thing. And it's like, in a way, I don't know if it's in opposition to what the men are doing, right? Like, what is coming first, the chicken or the fucking egg? Because part of me feels like it's like women are doing OnlyFans, men are trying to find a way to pimp bitches to get the money from their own OnlyFans and call them hoes and not have their little hearts broken. And so women are like, okay, if they're gonna be like that, like, fuck that. But then
let's just use them too. Yeah.
But then you're not, because then you want to end up with a pimp in a way, except he's pimping you out in the home. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
right. Like, he still is to a degree. And yes, I completely understand. And I feel like people using men for money and like this whole soft life thing, it's like this whole soft life thing, they don't think about it like still being pimped in that way. Right. Because they don't have that like intersectional lens of like what sex work really is.
Yeah. And it's like they think they're so above sex work.
Right, like that would be horrible for them to find that out.
Which is insane because all the ideologies are coming from fucking sex work.
And it's like you're using patriarchy to get things just because you're not like saying like, oh, like 500 to fuck. Like you are kind of saying like, well, 500 a week to date me
and
or
they'll
be
put
around
like, yeah,
me.
because like you have to go
That's
on 3
sugar
dates
dating.
if he doesn't do this by 3 dates, if he has to do this by that. Like it is, and it's like, the more and more you think about it, it's like it's under capitalism as well, where it's like people are struggling, they're grinding. It's become so much less about like love, connection, intimacy, personal shit, and it's all about profit, money, social climbing, all of that, which is like, not feminist, really.
How many times at the strip club did we get money for conversations?
Right.
How many times do OnlyFans creator get money for conversations? Like, it's not even just about sex. It's like your time, your presence, your energy, just you to be in front of them and be around them. And that is how this rhetoric feels. Like, you do not get access to me unless you pay up, provide, like, all this shit. So, yeah.
But it's like, then, to me, it's just like, then be a sex worker and call it what it is. You cannot use sex work in your fucking intimate personal dating life. Like it actually like pisses me off. Like standards are one thing. Like I get, don't date a broke boy. Don't like what I like all of that is true. And I get why women have flipped so hard because of what we see going on. But it's just like, especially as someone who's been in sex work and you too, it's like, to me, that is not, I don't want what was my job to be my fulfilling relationship. Like,
right. And it's like, they don't look at it like that because they didn't do that.
Because they
but
didn't
it's like,
do it.
They don't realize that they are like doing it.
They're doing that. And it's like,
yeah,
that's
I
not
feel
gonna
you. It
fulfill
definitely hits different. Even with the Andrew Tate webcam shit, it's like he fucking hates women. He did all this shit, but it's all to get them on a webcam. Like that is the part that hits me the fucking most.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, not only are you going to break her down, it's like then you're going to...
Yeah, and I would say that is exploiting her because you're trafficking her.
Right, and you're all... Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and so just also touching on this, we have the divine masculine and divine feminine, which SheraSeven talks about as well. Like, you know, harnessing your divine feminine energy to get this man to give you all of his money and all of this stuff. And this is very gender essentialist as well. Like, do I believe in divine feminine and masculine energy? Like, yeah, kind of. Like, I feel in power of myself when I feel like I'm acting in my feminine energy, but I also feel like being a protector is very feminine too. Like, there's a lot of things about femininity that we don't look at as feminine that are very core to femininity. So it's like,
And it means something different for everyone.
Right.
Like, our femininity is not the same. Like,
right.
May it have similarities and like core values? Like maybe, but it's like, because like gender is not really real. It's like, it is like femininity is real. Like you're saying, like to an extent you feel it, but like it is very much like coming from within and like individualized in that way. And it should be. Because that's why people get pissed. Like, being a woman is not like wearing pink clothes. Like, why do people buy their daughters like a whole fucking pink? You know, like that's not.
Yeah, because you can be like, a woman can say I'm divine feminine, and her whole thing is being soft spoken, soft girl, like don't speak too much, da da da. And then to me, being divine feminine is more like goddess energy and more like being like a bad bitch, like unfuckwithable, like. Not like in the way that it's like, you know, again, I can't be in love or like any of those things, but more just like respect me and like I have this presence and stuff like that.
And I respect myself, so I command to be respected in a healthy way.
Yes, exactly, without trying to force to fit in a box of divine femininity.
Because, and also it's like they're painting femininity to just be like, all we're worth is like getting men to do shit and like paying us. Like that's not what it is to me either. Like, is that a part of my feminine power? Do I believe that I statement? Like, yeah, it is a part of it, but it's not like the biggest fucking part of it.
Also,
like that's
like, do I just want to lounge around, like soft girl? I just want to lounge around the house all day while my man buys me designer bags. Like that does not sound like a fulfilling life to me. Like if you want to do that,
maybe for a week,
do that.
But
if you want to do that. But like acting like that is the epitome of divine feminine energy is like so degrading to us as women. Like it's you see it again, like men are oppressed by patriarchy, women are oppressed by misogyny and patriarchy as well, but in what we think we're fighting it, they think that they're fighting their oppression by women, our oppression by men, but we're really reinforcing it. It's insane. But moving on to 2020, we get Meg Thee Stallion is shot by Tory Lanez, and this becomes a big point in the gender wars as well because Meg Thee Stallion gets an entire fucking smear campaign where people are saying that she lied and blah, 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 and she did fuck him, and she did go on,
this is kind of reminiscent, like, in a way, to the Anita Hill hearings.
Yes.
With the black man.
Yep.
And so it's like...
And they're both successful as well. So it's like, why? So men are saying, like, why would you tear down a successful black man? Like, and then also we have to remember Meg Thee Stallion did the Savage song, and she also did WAP. So she is one of the biggest stars in terms of this owning your sexuality, being a hoe, twerking, whatever. So when she goes on, what is this, what is the name of the fucking show that she went on? So she goes on Gayle King, right? And she has this like big interview after everything happened. And immediately after it happened, she said she had glass in her foot. She stepped on glass, like whatever. Like she was trying to protect him, da-da-da. She goes on Gayle King. And I think Gayle King like asked her if she had a sexual relationship with Tory Lanez in the past, and she said no. And then later came out and said that yes, she did. And so everybody focused on the fact that she's a liar and we can't trust her, and all these men just like completely like went the fuck after her and could not believe that Tory Lanez would get 10 years in prison, and everyone even blamed her friend and said it was Megan's fault and like all this stuff. So you got like a whole different, and again, this plays into the men's rights activist issues of like domestic violence, sexual assault, being falsely accused, all of that. Like this has been one of the issues that they care about for a while, and now we have a high profile case, even though it is a black couple. A lot of men are getting behind it. And this is like, it's weird because the manosphere started as like very like white centered, but like there was a point in the black manosphere that I didn't include as much. Like, it's weird because it's like within the Black Panther Party and like some of the civil rights movements and stuff, there was a certain belief that like women need to stay on the side and not be like doing certain things as well. So like that was like building too. Like it wasn't like black men were completely removed from the possibility of being like very toxic masculinity. I mean, we have like Andrew Tate and Fresh and Fit and stuff like that.
Right.
But the black manosphere at this time period is like really building because you have people like DJ Academics talking about this as well. And so it's I think it's blown out of proportion more than it really is, because if we see how black men voted as well in the election and how we break it down in the gender wars, it's much less black men than white men, but white men hopped onto this as well. So it becomes like a cultural moment across races, across genders, etc. So around this time too, we also have, it's like, again, the timeline is iffy. Like it could have started in 2020 with the pandemic and everything like that, but people start to post about their celibacy journey with #celibacyjourney. Focusing on mental health, abstinence, mental clarity. And a lot of it could be, the pandemic, people aren't going outside, they're not seeing other people. So they're like, this is a time for me to focus on my spiritual, sexual self and like celibacy as self-care, all of that. But at the same time, during the pandemic, we start to see, and it gains traction in 2021, 2022, also having to do with like the Meg Thee Stallion case and Amber Heard and Johnny Depp that we'll get into in a minute. But we get men are trash reemerging as a hashtag. Women on TikTok are really going off about the sexual violence and toxic masculinity that like really permeates our culture, and they're fucking pissed about it. And this is how we have influencers like Drew Offwallow, who she started as a regular person. Like she had a regular job, she had a regular TikTok. She posted a video about like red flags in men that went super viral. It attracted a shit ton of incels, and then from there she built her platform as haters that are men would comment really mean, racist, misogynistic, fat-phobic, body-shaming things on her TikToks, and she would make these like really funny, disses, I guess, like roasting them and kind of like sprinkling feminism in there as well. And at the same time, you also have Julia Fox openly talking about her celibacy journey and criticizing men as well. This is like post her and Kanye have broken up, and we see the route that like Kanye goes down, and like she had her baby with some other guy, like whatever. She's talking about like, I'm doing a celibacy journey. So like they're two of the biggest influencers during this time period. And then we also start to see a lot of content creators kind of like follow in Drew's footsteps and create these like red flags in men videos. Like, this is why you can't trust men. This is why you need to be celibate, like like all of that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked a lot about the whole celibacy thing and like decentering men on this podcast, but I do feel like in a way, from breaking everything down, like the celibacy piece, like I do kind of get, like, especially like not like I agree with it, like necessarily, like I don't disagree or agree, but it's like I see why we have come to that now.
Yep.
And it's not bad to like have like a rejuvenation moment.
Yeah.
I just wish the celibacy was rooted more in like the spirituality piece you were talking about, and like not so connected with being like boy sober. Because essentially it's like, that's a fucking like straight ass movement. Because if you're queer, like you're being celibate, it's not because of boy sober, it's like something else. So I don't know. Like, I just feel like the celibacy movement has everything to do with the gender wars, and like not really that much to do with like cleansing your like inner peace. And I do think it's like detrimental to like have a lot of people, like, it's not bad to like stand up to misogyny online and like hurt men's feelings and like all that shit. But just breaking down like the gender wars timeline, like as we have been, it's like, this is obviously not working. Like, it's been going on, and the men are still here and they're still doing their thing.
Yeah. And the thing like about like the Drew and the Julia Fox stuff, it's like, I get, like, especially with Drew, and like Autumn and I have had like a bunch of conversations about this, but like I get why Drew did what she did. Like, she was being harassed online a shit ton. Like, we've experienced like a microscopic amount of this when we posted our first gender wars video, and we got men hating on us, calling us fat, calling us ugly.
Yeah, and it like, it was one of our first videos to like that actually do well.
1K,
so like,
yes.
Right. So it's like the incels, they definitely drive the
they
algorithm.
They drive the
like,
algorithm as fuck. And it's like, yeah, like stand up against them. Like, these men are assholes, like blah, blah, blah. And like Julia Fox, like same, like, but my problem with it and the reemergence of men are trash is that we are focusing on a select pool of men, and then like making that be all men. And again, we get into like sticky, iffy territory similar to Andrew Tate, though Drew Offwallow and Julia Fox are nowhere near that. So I don't want to like draw comparisons in that sense. It's similar to like more like SheraSeven, but like I don't think they're monetizing in the same way. I mean, Julia Fox is already rich, but like women have been hurt by men. you know? And then when you have these videos that are like roasting the fuck out of men that hit on a soft spot, which like is like painful to you because maybe a man has said this to you or whatever, your army, you're going to war, you're enlightened, you're after it, you're like, fuck all of these men. And then we start to group all of men as being the problem. And with Julia Fox, I think she's a son. And that to me is also a little bit concerning, right? Because I think about that a lot. Like, okay, this generation is what it is. The dating pool is what it is. But like, what are we teaching the boys of the next generation? And like, what are they tuning into? And like, what role are we presenting to them as women as well? And I don't think the answer always being like men are shit. And like Drew has a boyfriend who she loves very much. She has family members who she loves very much. Like I don't think she says all men are trash. Like, I don't think that's really like what she does. But I think
she always says like terrible men who suck, like bad men.
Right.
Of things.
But it's a little bit unclear. And like talking about men as a whole category, like I think it's a very specific demographic. But it snowballs out of control, right? Like once you gain an audience and a platform, it almost is like the woman who started the incel thing. Like she was like, I'm a mad scientist and I created this thing and it fucking spiraled and is out of my control. And I think Drew had every right intention. I think Julia Fox did as well. But I think the point to where it is right now needs to be like reconsidered because I don't think that it's helping. And I think it's throwing more on the fire to make it worse.
Yeah.
You know?
I think it's just like so tricky and it sucks. Like I wish that we could be at a point and it's like I said, like Fiji and I were like literally like men are trash presidents. Like me way more so because I was at that point I like wasn't sexually or romantically attracted to men. Like I wasn't practicing that with men and it's like you were. So like I definitely was more. Like I was like on one.
Man hater.
And so like if I had like watched like Drew Afawalo's video like back then, like I think I would have like exploded. Because even when I saw like she validates anger and it's like that's not a bad thing. Like women are angry. Like they're so angry. But it's like to a point.
Yes, exactly.
Like the longevity of anger.
And that's what I got. I got comments on recently. I posted a TikTok that was directed at white women talking about like the gender. And I got a lot of women being like, oh, this video would be good. But like in 6 months, like we need to just grieve. We need to be angry right now. And it was white women. And I'm like, guys, like white bitches, like I get it. But it's like, we can't just like sit and I don't want to. It's like so hard, right? Because it's like women are too emotional, blah, 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 whatever. Like I fucking get being angry. Like I get being sad. I've been in terrible relationships that have broken me down as a fucking person that were really abusive and have almost destroyed me. It is hard every day to not think like every man is going to be a terrible person to me. But that is something that I am constantly fighting every day because I want to believe in a better society. And I think that if we just continue to look at things and like go after things from like a rage perspective or a rage bait perspective and like channel those emotions and have your fucking ceremony with your shit, with your best friend, go to therapy, go smash some shit, like get that out and you have every right to feel that fucking emotion. But once you start taking everything you have been through and start putting it on other people, that's where we're creating like fucking war. And then we're no better than the men that are being shit to us. Like, you know? So it's
we are so much better than them.
We are, guys. Like, we are critical thinkers. We are smarter. And, like, Drew's insults are fucking funny. Like, what Julia Fox said, like, all of them. It's not just them. They're just, like, the two that I decided to pick in this. There's so many others on TikTok at this point.
But they're popular as fuck. Like, people really do credit fucking Julia Fox for, like, Boy Sober. And, like, all that shit. And, like, Drew Afawalo, like she's fucking huge. Like she's everywhere. Like on a New York Times.
Started like a whole wave, but it's like I just don't think it's like sustainable at this point. And like I hope it grows from there. But
it just hurts. Like we both know how much it hurts to hate men. Like and it like literally like made me want to be like not just a sex worker, but like an actual prostitute. Like I literally wanted to fuck for money and like be numb and not feel anything because I was like nothing matters. I fucking hate them.
Like you
and
hate
I don't have like
in a way too.
Like we both don't have great male role models at all. Like you know what I mean? Like, and we both have our brothers, but it's like,
Exactly. And it's like, to me, it's also like by us believing that all men are trash and there's no good men out there, and all we should do, because Drew doesn't encourage that, SheraSeven does.
Right, but it's like
all we can do is like monetize off of them, whatever. To me, it's dehumanizing to them. It is also deeply dehumanizing to me and my soul, because I want love. Like, I want to experience love with a person. I want someone to value me for who I am, and not just like the abuse that I've been through in my past, or like the work that is sex work. Like, I believe in something greater than that. And Drew has that in the relationship that she's in, you know? So it's like, and Julia Fox, I don't know, but like, I think it's like, it's dangerous on certain points where we get to these conversations, because it's igniting a fire that I don't think we're going to be able to put out unless we like contain it a little bit.
And it's like, no one's fault, arguably. It's like, we've been enabling this shit for fucking like
it was
decades.
natural.
Like, as
it was the progression.
Right. Like, exactly. Like, it's like everything has brought us to this point to even have a creator like Drew Afewalo. It's like, she wouldn't like exist if it wasn't for like all, I mean, like she would, like she's amazing, but you know what I mean? Like,
but
she
for people who came
different
before her, because even Audre Lorde, like Black feminist from the 80s, like she had a whole essay, I don't remember when it was written, but about the uses of anger and how Black women have the right to express their anger as women, as queer women, as like feminists, because of how fucked up the society is. Like, so she was talking about how like sometimes in feminist circles with other white women, like white women will be like, oh, like just be more quiet, like you can't express those emotions, like no, like, you know, like she was like, no, you need to be able to be angry and express those emotions and all of that. I am for expressing the anger. I think what I'm not for is the hate and the like calling an entire group of people like hateful things, because that is different than being angry. I can be angry at you and not call you a worthless bitch. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And it's like they're doing that to us, and I get that the men are saying we're worthless bitches, but I do
we're
think
better.
we don't want to stoop to their level, like you said. Like, that's what makes it like really hit for me. And like, I do think like Drew Afewalo, Julia Fox, like these are important things like in history, like for sure. Like, like Drew is like a Samoan woman, like all of that.
And done
like,
a lot for body positivity culture and like
so
everything.
important. And like Julia Fox, like definitely had her moment, like for sure too. And it's like we
and
need
the queer
that.
influences with her too. Yeah, like,
but it's like, where are we going? Though?
Yeah,
you
what's
know, like
next?
what is this leading to? Because right now it's like literally like you said, wars, and it's not like it's not like men's fault, women's fault, not like no one's fault. It's like, this is where we are though. So it's like, what are you gonna do tomorrow?
Right, because it's feeding off of each other. Like, it's reactionary. You say this to me, I say this to you. I fuck you. Like, you know, we're all going off of the last thing that happened and thinking in the moment.
And no one's paying attention to the
and no
shit.
one's thinking like, what is this gonna give us in 6 months, or not even for my relationships or politically, but even me as a person. Like, we're all so individualistic, but we're not even thinking about ourselves in 6 months and how this is gonna make us feel. Okay, so last thing in this section, we have the Sassy Man Apocalypse, which, guys, we did do an episode about like a very long time ago. I think we deleted it. It's archived on YouTube. It might still be out on. I hate that episode, honestly.
Yeah, but it's definitely a huge moment. And like, I was like we were living it real time. Like, I feel like when we made that episode, it's like when it was
we
really
were figuring it out. Like we were
and now it's like we for sure like know what it is and like what it entails. But it's basically like men like not taking on like feminine qualities, but like right? Like, it kind of is.
Kind of, because I like tried to convince myself that it wasn't, because I was like, no, like I like a feminine guy, like I like a bisexual looking guy, like it's not about that. It's about to me what it was about, but that's not really what the whole thing is about. So I can't just like fucking make it my own. What it was about was men when they're jealous of you, which I've had a lot in my life and in my relationships. They start to do all this sassy, dickheadish shit because they're trying to put you down, kind of thing. Like, that's to me, and that was sassy.
Yeah,
and
they secretly wish what you had. Yeah.
Right.
No, exactly. And it's just like, Yeah, because the problem was saying it's like they're doing feminine things and like it being sassy. Like there is a problem with that. It's
and
like,
it's
why
like
did we
they should
choose
be
the
building
word?
houses. Like that coincided. It was like the men are too sassy today. What happened to men who build houses? Like, what are you doing? And it's like, it's a joke because it's like what men say to us. Like, and that's why it's like, I still fuck with it to a point. And I kind of stand by some of what I said, but I'm kind of on the other side of it now after all of that we've done. Because it's like, if men are going to be like, get in the kitchen, cook for me, make me a sandwich, whatever, all that shit, then it's funny. It's humorous. Like, just like I did a TikTok the other day, like women in male fields. Like, it's the same exact thing. Like, it's like, but I almost recorded a TikTok that was a think piece about the women in male fields thing and how it's wrong. But then I just like was like, fuck it, let me just make a stupid TikTok. Like, I don't know. Like, it's, because part of it is like funny. Like, it's like cute little funny shit. But then when we really think about it, it's like a problem.
It's the impact. And like, especially with social media, it's like it goes viral so quick. And then before you know it, it's like, it started as a joke, but like it turns to fucking reality.
And the men think we're serious. Like, we have an inside joke, which is what I love about TikTok, right? Like, we're going to get into the Barbie and women. Like, women run social media. Like, I'm sorry, but like women influencers, like we run social media. We have our own humor, like our own jokes that other women pick up on. And so it's like usually when I'm creating content and like that type of stuff, like we used to do TikToks like that all the time. Like, the target audience is women. But then like how men are seeing that content. And I was starting to even realize in my last relationship, not that I'm blaming myself for any of it, because I feel like everything wrong was mostly him. But I will take ownership for some parts in which like him 100%. Watching some of that content that I had been creating, I feel like was confusing to him. Like, you know what I'm saying?
He doesn't get it.
He doesn't get it. He's not in on the joke. And so it's not a joke. It's just you hate men.
Yeah, I know. Because it's like, but it's like some men like do get it. Like, I feel like we've met men that get it. I can think of one
I
in
was
particular.
actually the last man that I was chilling with. Like, we were in bed and he was like, "Oh, have you seen the women in male fields thing?" I was like, "Yeah, I have." Like, so you know, some men
like
know it.
They have capabilities. Like, it's fucking possible. But it's like, did he do a lot of work to get there? I'm sure. You know what I mean? Because it's like, it is all internalized and all that shit. But that's such a good point. It's like, not only is it like it's good for women to like be in on it together, but it's like, yeah, the impact is like men looking at it like it's real. And then like we're all fucked.
And it's
like,
so hard because on social media, like I literally posted a women in male fields thing. So I'm like, which is kind of coinciding with this. And it's like, I think about that, but it's like, bro, like at the same time, like my audience is women. Like it's like, if we want to decenter men and just talk to women, then we should be posting content that is directed at like women. But then how are we furthering the conversation about patriarchy and like masculinity and like all of that stuff? So it's such a fucking paradox.
And decentering men is like so confusing to me now. I'm just like,
yeah, because it's like decentering men in your brain, but it's like also decentering men in like, you know, the content that you post, like your culture, like the way that you talk about
and like
things.
Excusing bad behavior that men do because you're just like, oh, I want to fuck him, or like he's my dad, like whatever. Like,
it's like, no, I matter more. He's my dad. Flashback to our daddy episode, bro.
Yeah, guys, don't even promote that shit.
Actually.
But yeah, the sassy man apocalypse like was definitely like really fucking important. Like, I don't know, I can't really compare it to any of like the past history shit. Like it's very weird, and like most men would be like, I'm not a sassy man, like whatever. But it seems like
they were missing the point of it though.
Right.
To me, it was never about Timothy Chalamet is a sassy man. I would never consider him a sassy man. To me, the man that wants to hustle and grind and is mad that I'm wearing this outfit is a sassy man.
Like,
you know?
Petty as fuck.
Exactly. So, but different women were using it differently. Like they would say, like, why are men not like building houses? So it's like, it's so, again, it goes on social media and it spirals and it's
fucked.
It is what it is. So in 2021, I also want to note that Juneteenth becomes a federal holiday, which is like, you know, very important. Juneteenth should have been a fucking holiday, but like there's more that Joe Biden could have done. I don't know. There's
about
more that we can
fucking
do in
time.
general. And then we have in 2021 also a wave of anti-trans legislation. And this is going to be what Donald Trump eventually builds his like whole platform, not his whole platform, but a lot of stuff and a lot of the manosphere stuff. We're getting into, again, like gender essentialist territory. And like I've seen multiple TikToks of like all people being like, you know, watch out for the content that you're listening to, because some of this stuff and a lot of the decentering men and the boy sober and some of that goes into the gender essentialist fucking territory, which completely erases non-binary people and trans people from the conversation. And we try, like, towing that line is so complicated. But 2022, we also have Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. This was a huge fucking case. Huge case. Went on forever. Defamation. He sued her, brought her to court for defamation after she came out and said he was abusive. A mess. But the manosphere loved this shit. Demonized the fuck out of her. And yeah. And then in 2022, we get Andrew Tate is banned from social media. I think I kind of already talked about this like a little bit because this is when he was promoting he was asking other accounts to promote him and stuff. And also in 2022, Jordan Peterson's Twitter account was also suspended for hateful conduct after a tweet misgendering and denaming transgender actor Elliot Page, calling his physician a criminal. And he was notified that he had to delete the tweet in order to restore access to his account, which he said he would rather die than do. Like, bro, like, fuck off all the way. Like, you'd rather die than respect someone. Like, you're standing on it that hard. Like, transphobic as fuck. And then YouTube demonetized 2 of his videos. And then where he said that gender affirming care was Nazi medical experiment level wrong, which is something that I have heard from men that I know saying that, you know, it's similar to how the Nazi stuff was. And it's also similar to how in America, the medical institutions like experimented on Black and brown like men and women as well. And it's like, I feel like that conversation is so dangerous because it's taking a very vulnerable, very fucked up situation and putting it on something that is completely innocent, like transgender people reaffirming their identity, which is insane. But then his Twitter account was restored in 2022 when Elon Musk acquired the company. And I don't really have Elon Musk in here because I can't even go down that fucking...
Now it's X, but I'm never going to call it X.
Right, I'm never calling it X. It is Twitter. I made a Blue Sky. I have Threads. I'm like slowly trying to get off of Twitter, but like
the fuck is a Blue Sky?
It's like a bunch of Democrats were moving to Blue Sky after the election. It's essentially Twitter. But it's a butterfly logo. It's really cute. It's like blue.
Cute. I want one.
You should make one. It's cute.
Okay.
It's cute. Guys, get on Blue Sky. Please, because I'm on Twitter and I just love my Twitter algorithm. Like my memes, like everything. That's what I need to like rebuild somewhere else because Threads, I just can't get behind. And Blue Sky, I have like 1 follower. So
my whole
follow me on Blue
is
Sky,
like lesbians.
Guys. Yeah. Follow me on Blue Sky. It's at So Wet. And then Fresh and Fit was demonetized in 2023, which we already kind of talked about. And also in 2023, Andrew Tate faces his legal battles for human trafficking and rape in Romania. Then in 2022, we have Roe v. Wade is overturned. And this is like, we've talked about this a lot, guys, so I'm not going to talk about it too much. We have our sex education episode. We have our purity culture episode as well, where we go into a lot more of this. But this is obviously like a huge thing. Very against all of women's rights in general and what Kamala Harris built her platform on. Yep. And then in 2023, during the same time, the Supreme Court also strikes down affirmative action, and Florida has a lot of anti-woke legislation. So this is all the conversation about critical race theory and about diversity in higher education, and Florida passed laws restricting discussions of race. So it's like in Black history, like we just have a whole bunch of conservatism going on, attacking racial stuff and gender identity. And also in 2023, we have the Barbie movie is released. And this is when I'm Just a Girl begins to trend. We have celebrations of girlhood, girl dinner, all of this stuff. We have talked about this. It was a moment. We've talked about this in numerous episodes. I think the female friendships, business competition. That episode we talked about it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of them.
A lot of them. And I just think, like, you know, Barbie represents so many things, like, for so many, you know, people. And, like, not even, like, Barbie specifically, but, like, when you think of Barbie, like, you do think of a specific type of woman. And, like, you do kind of think of, like, women shit. Because it's, like, we all want to look like a quote-unquote Barbie. The Barbie is, like, American, like, white fucking beauty. Like, you know what I mean? So I feel like it already was, like, a moment for that. And then the way they made the movie was like, why was it giving like the real Matrix, like red pill, blue pill? Like, do you want to know the truth, Barbie?
Yes,
and, like, go
yes. And then they even had the
like,
manosphere in there because Ken created his, and he was trying, it was like Logan Paul, Jake Paul, which I didn't include them in here, but they're also part of the manosphere.
Yeah.
But like, that's what it was very much giving. Like Barbie rejects Ken, and then Ken goes and joins he discovers patriarchy and joins the manosphere and like like whatever. So it's like, I feel like that was one of the first media movie art pieces where you see the gender wars a little bit play out in the movie.
And it's like, whether you believe it or not, like the movie was like marketed like sort of as like a feminist film. Like it was supposed to be like empowering for women, like whether it was or wasn't is like up for debate. But like that is what like it was trying to like represent and like in that direction. Like Barbie just represents so many things. Like it's a white blonde bitch that's skinny with tits and ass, like unproportional, like body figure, like standards and all of that. So it's like, it was going to be a moment regardless, but the fact that they choose to like make it like this. And like there was that whole trend that was like, did your boyfriend understand the Barbie movie?
Right.
Like it definitely had,
and it had
a huge
some
moment.
men, and some men went to the theater and were like, oh my God, this was incredible. Like they learned something for it. It very much reminds me of the Gillette commercial in a lot of ways, because it's also like we have the capitalism thing in there and we have this corporation, and then they like joke about it because they have all the Will Ferrell is like the execs at the Barbie thing, and like, you know, so like there were like levels to it. Like I liked the movie. I thought it was cute. Like it wasn't bad. Like I loved the celebration of girlhood and all of that stuff, because I don't think that I was ever really like a very girly girl like I've talked about in the past. So like for me it was a nice era to reclaim your girliness and your youth and like all of that stuff. But, you know, in the scheme of things, was it like a huge move for feminism? I don't know. Culturally, maybe.
I don't know. As I said, up for debate.
And the manosphere, but the manosphere definitely hated it. They fucking hated it. And then in 2023, like bringing us into now, and we're not going to go into this like too much, because we do have an episode next week where we are breaking everything down and we are focusing more on like what's happening post-election. But we have, you know, social media amplification of no men, no marriage, reject patriarchy, the 4B movement, resisting toxic masculinity. We have a lot of like hetero pessimism going on, and there begins to be the conversations about the gender wars in terms of like the political sphere, right? And this is like, we've talked about it a lot. Like we talked about it in our liberal white women episode, and also white women who voted for Trump, maybe a little bit. But like the gender breakdown, it's more men voted for Trump than women. But in the same breath, when we look at black men, those numbers are very different. I mean, it's less black men voted for Trump than white women did. So it's like when we talk about what is a gender war really like politically, it's hard to say. But the reason that a lot of people are saying that is because of the way that these two presidential candidates position themselves. Like Kamala Harris was very much like, what is it? Feminine-a-thon, like the fucking Chappell Roan song, and she had the memes, and then she was doing like the abortion stuff. She was focused on that. She went on Call
like
Her Daddy.
Charlie XCX, Sabrina Carpenter, like all those bitches endorsed
exactly.
her.
Brat is very queer. Brat is very like femme, and then you have Donald Trump went on Theo Von, who honestly, guys, it makes me so sad because Theo Von is funny and he says a lot of funny fucking shit. And I feel like he's like supposed to be liberal. Like I'm so fucking confused by him. But he's not. And I don't know. It's just unfortunate. And then he also went on Joe Rogan. And then he also went on with Jake Paul or Logan Paul. Fucking one of them.
One of the fucking people. Yeah.
I really don't know or care. And then, you know, Kamala Harris, like I said, went on Call Her Daddy and did all the brat stuff. So like we see the two presidential candidates in real time and in a weird way kind of playing out gender wars. And as the polls go, is it a gender war? Is it not? Like we're going to talk about that next week and get into the dating stuff more. Or is it just the fact that like one of the candidates is a woman and one is a man?
Right.
I don't know, but yeah.
And a black woman, a woman
black
of color
woman
at that, and a white man.
Yup.
And then you look at like how it divides by race. Yeah, it's insane. And this is the hardest part of the episode because this is literally right now. And like you said, we are going to break it down next week, but it's like politics are not what they used to be. It is completely disrupting our relationships, and like not even just that, but like our ability to like connect with one another, like period. And it's like if a country is like divided politically, it's like I don't know how you like form authentic relationships from there. Like it's really fucking hard. Like
because the personal is political. Like we said at the beginning of the episode, it's like you can't, and especially with social media where it permeates every single piece of content that we look at, and we have these dating wars, and then we have the political gender stuff. It's like you cannot remove the political from your personal relationships. I could argue that you never could, but I think it's just more amplified because people are in a lot of ways more knowledgeable. And I want to think they're more knowledgeable because in an intersectional way, but I think a lot of people are also more knowledgeable in an alt-right conspiracy theory way. Either way, people think they have more knowledge and have more access to information, even if it's not always the right information.
Right.
So, yeah.
All right. Well, that brings us to the end of part 2 of the timeline of the gender wars. We hope you guys liked it. Let us know what you thought in the comments below. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube and following on Spotify. You can also like the video on YouTube. It takes 2 seconds. It really helps us. You can give us a star rating or a written review on Apple, platforms like Amazon and Spotify as well. It would mean so much to us. Make sure you're following on Instagram at So Wet So Dry, the O's are zeros, to participate in our polls and submit stories. We hope to see you back here next week for part 3, where we actually break shit down. We put out the facts. Now we're going to break it down. Political versus relationship, gender wars, Fiji to you.
Yes, and we do also have listener support. It's 99 cents, $4.99, or $9.99 a month. It is in the bottom of the description of every single episode, no matter what platform you guys are listening on, but it is through Spotify. And yeah, we love you guys so much. Please, please, please comment, join the conversation, and we will catch you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.
Did you know that the roots of the manosphere actually started in the feminist movement? Back in the 1970s, there was the men's liberation movement, which was coincided with the feminist movement. The men's liberation movement was all about rejecting gender roles. They argued that they were seen as success objects and that patriarchy imprisoned them to aggression and emotional constipation. Pretty much, they also believed that the codes of patriarchy and toxic masculinity prevented them from being their full selves, just like women. So there was this guy named Warren Farrell, who was one of the leaders of this men's liberation movement alongside feminists, and he was actually really good friends with Gloria Steinem. Here's this picture of them together. In the early 90s, Warren Farrell got fed up. He had been going on all of these feminist talks alongside women, but he didn't believe that women were seeing his issues as a man. So he wrote this book called The Myth of Male Power, in which he pretty much just said that he got really good at saying what women wanted to hear, but that wasn't the truth. In actuality, men were oppressed by women. The myth of male power, he argues that men are oppressed in glass cellars instead of glass ceilings, such as the war machine, dangerous profession, suicide, false rape accusations, and that women actually have more economic power, and that women actually have more power in whole. This is obviously a little insane, but the beginning of his ideas for the book were rooted in feminism. Feminists did argue that men were imprisoned in these glass cellars of masculinity where they were seen as disposable, held back from expressing their true emotional selves. But he took it to a whole nother level when he decided to blame women. Around 2008, when the blogging era was really thriving, this guy named Paul Elam, which is male backwards, but that's his actual last name, read Warren Farrell's The Myth of Male Power and was inspired. So he started this blog called A Voice for Men. A Voice for Men had a bunch of different writers under the Men's Human Rights rights movement. They argued that they were nonviolent and didn't hate feminists, but a lot of their articles blamed women for pretty much everything. On this blog, red pill theories really started to take off, and then you get the incels, men going their own way, and MRAs, or men's rights activists. There we move into characters like Gary Vee, Jordan Peterson, Andrew Tate, and everything just snowballs. But check out the link in my bio for a complete breakdown of the gender wars timeline.